Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Kushina is obsessed with Naruto. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. Who the fuck says this is easy shall die? Screeched out a woman voice, panting and breathing quick breaths. For almost 9 months ever since marrying with her husband as well, the two doing the act, the woman felt ill and uneasy for the past couple weeks after sharing a wonderful moment with her withering and discomfort husband of hers. The blonde man, who is gritting his teeth as well, trying hard not to lose his right hand, is tenderly trying his best to calm his wife down. He can see how sweat were pouring down her forehead, causing her crimson red hair to become soaked as well, laid across on the makeshift ceiling circle underneath the bed she is laying on. "Kushina, you are doing great, keep pushing," announced another female voice that was at the edge of the bed. Baby delivery has never been one for comfort, nor anyone saying to her that it would be that easy to bring life out into the world. "What the hell you think I've been doing, dat bayo?" she shouted as well, thrashing her head back down, clenching her eyes shut. Her name is Kushina Uzumaki, the last known person of her clan. Her husband is Minato Namikaze, who is right now trying to pray he won't go paralyzed from his bones being crushed. Been agonizing for the woman, as she have asked many times with her friends Makoto Uchiha, who not long ago gave birth to her second child, Sasuke Uchiha, and Hiyashi Hyuga's wife, who too gave birth to a healthy girl named Hinata. She asked the two through the 9 months, pestering and bothering them by repeating the same question over and over. With that being, does it actually really hurt? Of course Makoto will constantly joke about as well, sweat drop at the question, saying how there are things that the brave Kushina is afraid of. While for Hikari, she will giggle a bit and try to discreetly give her clues that it will be like having a kunai being forced through your arm. She wasn't far off, as Kushina should have taken the clue big time, thankfully though with one final push. Her and Minato's son was finally delivered, all the while getting cleaned up by Sarutobi's friend Kaharu. She was carefully handing the bundle of joy over to Minato, as he tugged the little blonde hair boy in his arms. Tears were almost breaking through his face as he looked over to Kushina, who was recovering from giving birth. Is also having tears as well, feeling the constant effects of the seal pouring into her, keeping the 9-tailed fox at bay. Jinchurikis, when going through childbirth, makes the funjutsu that is placed on them weak and powerless, that the demon spirits inside of them can easily break out of the jailer and kill them on the spot. But not to Kushina and Minato. The fourth Hokage made sure to study on all there is to know about funjutsu, with the help of his loving wife. "Naruto, he is so beautiful, Kushina," Minato finally said after getting his bearings back as well, giving Kushina the baby boy, who instantly stopped crying after his finger grabbed onto Kushina's own finger. "Naruto, Naruto," she said through gritted teeth as well, a happy smile. She hugged the boy closer to her and lightly traced over the whisker marks that were on his cheeks, making little baby Naruto smile with his gums showing, indicating he liked that. "My baby boy, you were a hassle," she weakly joked out, getting smiles from the group around her. "That's my Kushina," Minato joked while rubbing his eyes a bit, getting his wife to blush and weakly smile up to him. Things went really well tonight. Kushina survived through giving childbirth, as all Uzumakis are. They have a very strong life force that allows them to almost live past the age of 100. Including their strong will to survive through even the most deadliest and life-threatening attacks, as long they get healed thereafter though. "Good job you two, there were no problems during the procedure and Naruto is one healthy boy," explained Kaharu as she was taking off her medical plastic gloves, smiling at the now family of 3, huddling all together with happy smiles and faces. Though all good things had to come to an end, moments after giving birth to Naruto Uzumaki, the loving family were suddenly attacked by a man who thought was long dead hundreds of years ago, who appeared before them wearing a strange mask underneath his hoodie that was concealing his face from them, demanding to the fourth Hokage to give him the 9 tails Jinchuriki. All hell broke loose when the masked man kidnapped little Naruto from them and forcing Minato into a fight for his son's life, in which Minato had a hard time landing a single blow to this mysterious enemy, until he figured out how he was doing it. He somehow is able to phase part of his body to another dimension that will cause any type of enemy attacks to go right past him, and then will make that body solid again, all the while delivering a heavy attack at his enemy. Minato, after analyzing this and place his own special funjutsu onto his back, was able to instantly teleport behind him right when he get his body solid again, delivering a powerful Rasengan into his back, sending him flying into the side of the mountain. Though like an enemy ninja he had a distraction, and it was baby Naruto in his hands, wailing and crying for his parents. Minato cussed to himself after teleporting behind the man and purposely shift his body to have the Rasengan in his hand, hit the ground causing a smokescreen to cover them. Seeing the man dropping Naruto in the sky, Minato instantly went for the bait and chase after the baby by running up the mountainside and jumping out to reach for the baby. Right when his fingers were touching Naruto, he immediately used his space-time jutsu to disappear in a yellow flash. Then he reappeared in a safety bunker that had a baby crib for Naruto to sleep in, as the baby cried out to the word for a bit, all the while starting to calm down as the thrashing baby started going back to sleep in the crib, giving Minato a bit of time for a breather, only to snap his eyes wide open. Realizing the mistake he made, shit, he is after Kushina, he used my son as a distraction, he thought to himself and lightly punched the wall silently as well, looking down at Naruto. If his hunch is right, that masked man was going to extract the Kyuubi from his wife and set it free. His mind was racing as his blue eyes shifted left and right, trying to figure out what he should do. He knew he wasn't powerful enough to kill the Nine Tails. As well, Kushina will be too weak from the extracting for her to even get the Nine Tails resealed back into her. There were too many variables to count, except for one, Reaper Death Seal. With that thought and a sorrowful apology to Naruto, he picked up the baby boy and disappeared in a flash, to seek out Kushina and hoping that he wasn't too late. Why are you doing this?" shouted Kushina, who had her arms chained up to two stone pillars. She could feel the seal on her stomach burning and glowing bright red, giving out surges of energy as the seal formula started becoming darker and darker. "If you release the Kyuubi," she tried to reason with him, as she glared at him with her violet eyes. Watching how the strange man stands there, with his arms out, focusing so much on the process of releasing the Kyuubi from the seal. Yes, nobody will be able to control the Kyuubi, that fact is true. He finally responded to her as the woman let out a painful shrill, feeling the final part of the seal opening up, as well a giant fox head coming through the small, forcing Kushina to arch her back forward. "But I am not like other people. I have the ability and the jutsu to be able to control the nine-tailed fox," he shouted as Kushina let out more screams of agony as the fox was fully extracted out of her, causing the cave they were in to burst apart in nothing but smoke, as well revealing the nine-tailed demon fox out in the open, roaring and snarling out to the world. Finally free from its seal, it looked down at the person who released him, as well, seeing that Kushina's body went limp against her bindings, all the while falling down to the floor when they broke. The fox snarled and glared at the strange man. Seeing his container in much discomfort and pain was enough for it to lash out and try to kill the man who was standing there. Before the paw could crush him, he removed his hoodie and said, "Child's play." With that, his one eye glowed through the night as it shone through the fox's eyes, all the while forming into what looks like a full 3 Tomo pupil eyes. The fox's paw immediately stopped in front of the man and calmly places itself on the ground in front of him. "The jutsu is now in effect. I now control the nine-tailed fox," he announced, all the while blinking his eyes. He heard movement in front of him, but that couldn't be. Jinchurikis can't handle the extracting of their demons being removed? He looked down to the ground and saw Kushina sprawled out on the ground, crawling her way towards him. With what strength and energy she has left, she will try everything to stop the man from doing what she thinks he is going to use the fox for. Persistence as well, living up to the name of Uzumaki's. Your clan really does have strong life force. Too bad there won't be any way for you to stop me, he announced, and with that he hopped on top of the fox's head and disappeared in a swirling vortex. Kushina with her last energy reached her hand out desperately, as well saying, "Minato, Naruto, I'm sorry." With those final words, Kushina fell fully onto the ground with no indication of movements or that she is still conscious. Minato arrived at the scene too late as he widened his eyes, as well falling to his knees. There she lay on the ground with her red long hair, covering most of her face as it showed pain and regrets. Her body and clothes were covered in filth, as well there being rope-like burns to her wrists. He clenched his teeth and approached the woman, as he lightly traces his hand against her cheek, moving some strain of hair from her eyes as he can see fresh tears on her. He was trying everything to let break apart right there and now. Kushina, don't worry, I will save the village in your stead. Your deed will not go in vain. He quietly whispered to her as well, looking down at Naruto, who was crying and could sense that his mother was close, but had no clue that she had died. Minato lowered his head a bit, with his blonde hair covering his face, then looked up with promise of death behind his eyes as well, the need to save the village. Whispering words to Kushina's ears as well, telling her that the only way to save Konoha is to make Naruto become the jailer of the nine-tailed fox. With a kiss on the forehead and lightly placing his own forehead onto Kushina's forehead, he then stood up as well, disappearing in a flash of yellow. Goodbyes were already made and he knew that Kushina will be against the idea of Naruto being the next Jinchuriki. Kushina falling body laid there on the ground, not knowing what was happening outside around her as a giant blue glow of light illuminated far from where she was. With a nearby ninja scouting around for any survivor, gasped and saw Minato's wife laying on the ground. He immediately approached to the woman and turned her over onto her back, as his one Sharingan eye widened in fear. Kushina, no, he whispered quietly, only to blink his eyes a bit. He leaned his hand on her forehead, using a forensic jutsu on her, checking over her vitals even though he wasn't fully trained in this area. He does know a good dose of when somebody is unconscious or seriously wounded. After getting done and pulling back in pure shock, he was surprised that she isn't dead. Though a comatose victim is considered dead too many, double-checking, he felt small pulse going through the woman's wrist and immediately hopped onto his feet. Don't worry Kushina, I'll go and get the third Hokage. With that he sprinted as fast he can out in the forest, to seek out the third Hokage. Telling him about Kushina's whereabouts and her situation, after he left, Kushina's fingers twitched ever so slightly as the Kyuubi's chakra was replenishing what little chakra she had left in her body. Not knowing when she will wake up, Sarutobi gave the orders to the Anbu and Kakashi to not spread any words of Kushina surviving from the Nine Tails attack, as well giving the order of not telling anyone about Kyuubi being sealed inside of Naruto. With one crisis avoided and a mother being disconnected from her son, they head back to the Leaf Village as two different groups went separate ways. One carrying young baby Naruto to an orphanage where he will be taken care of as well, hopefully get adopted until Kushina woke up. While the second group, who is with Sarutobi, brought Kushina to a private and advanced medical facility from prying eyes. So this way they can make sure that no assassination attempts will befall her, or people announcing to the world that Kushina is alive and survived the Nine Tails. Sarutobi then went into a council meeting with only the ninja head clans and elders of the news of Minato's death as well, sealing the Nine Tails. He then in private without Danzo presence, explained to the Nara, Akamichi, Inuzuka, Yamanaka, Hyuga and Uchiha clan about Kushina's whereabouts as well, explaining to them that she has fallen into a coma. They weren't sure how things will play out, or when the woman will wake up. All that is left to do is wait to see what the future holds for the Leaf Village. 7 years later. What hit me? Kushina groaned in thought as everything was pitch black for her to see. What the hell happened to me? It feels like I was gobbled up, tossed around, dragged through rocky roads and spinning in a washing machine. She continued her thoughts. She went through a checklist in her head as she curled up her fingers, as well letting out a small sensory jutsu to feel where she is. A bed, a heart monitor, a door, some windows. Oh man, I am in a hospital. She whined out as she moved her head slightly to the right, trying to recall the last thing she remembers doing. Naruto, she shouted suddenly while whipping her entire upper body straight up, with fear behind her violet eyes. All the while quickly blinking them as she saw a couple people scream and ran out the door in fright. Shaking her head as well, ignoring everything, she remembered what happened last. That masked man who kidnapped Naruto, extracted the Kyuubi from her seal and right before she could stop him, disappeared before her eyes as she passed out onto the cold ground, drained of any energy that was left in her body. Though she will think that through later and figure out what happened to her son, Naruto and Minato. She groaned in protest as her body was screaming out to her, that they needed to adjust as she glared at the floor. Body, you will move and you will do it now. Our baby is still out there somewhere and I am not going to stay in a freaking hospital. DATTABAYO. With that announcement and placing her feet on the floor, as well quickly curling her legs up to her chest, cold, cold, cold. she shouted while blowing some hot air onto her feet as well, rubbing them with her hands. Then she took into her attire, seeing that she is wearing nothing but probably some underwear and the hospital gown that is over top it. Would definitely cause some scenes as well. Perverted eyes in her direction. First close, then look and search for Naruto and Minato. She muttered out, all the while trying to figure out if there was anything in the brewers for her to wear. Surprisingly and luckily for her there were. The clothes she wears on a daily basis were brought over from her house. As well what appears to be her ninja gear. So, Minato did stop the Nine Tails, was the question running through her head. If her ninja gear was here as well, the leaf headband, then that means Konoha has lived through the masked man's attacks and controlling over the Nine Tails. With nothing much to wear as well, skinny once more. She was able to fit into her ninja outfit once more and check over the outfit she was wearing. She wasn't one to pry into looks, but she just couldn't help but guide her hands along the side of her body, down to her waist while looking at a nearby mirror. All the while grinning that she was back to being slim, all the while seeing her red hair being luscious once more. Her ninja outfit was that of what Jonin and Chunin usually wears, with a green vest over top some long blue sleeve shirt. Her ninja headband neatly tucked across her forehead, as it caused two long pieces of her red hair to hang down off from it. In all honesty and her opinion, someone who just gave birth is smoking hot. Though they are a bit snug than I remember, gah. She then shook her head and ruffled her hands through them, all the while glaring with her fist in the air. Focus girl, you have to go and find Naruto now. She scolded herself and went towards the window and out into the streets. I kid you not, Lord Hokage, she has finally awakened and is. The nurse was explaining to Sarutobi, as they were rushing all the way down the halls and towards the room they've kept Kushina in for 7 years, as well making sure to keep her vitals going. Right here, they finished explaining, all the while opening up the door that led into the room. Only for the two of them gasp in slight shock and enter the room, seeing that the bed was a mess. The hospital was littered onto the floor as well. The brewer that held Kushina's cloths was left open. Anbu! Shouted Sarutobi as the Anbu ninjas all appeared at once with him. Wondering what got the old man so scared of. Go out and find Kushina at once, you all know what she looks like, right? He asked as they looked at one another, then back to him with collective nods. Good, now go and find her quick. He shouted and got a collective yes sir and left the room immediately. Sarutobi, after sending the group out to find Kushina, started rubbing the bridge of his nose. I too am going to go and search for Kushina. Make sure that no words get out of her waking up. It will be the last headache I need before perishing. He muttered and jumped through the window right before the nurse could ask why, as she then just nodded her head. Kushina, no matter how many times she comes out into the Leaf Village, her home, she will always be amazed at how big and prosperous it will be. She could tell that she was away for a very long time, considering some of the buildings look like they were new, while some old buildings were still here, wedged between some of the new ones. The villagers, ninjas and civilians all look like they were having fun. There were a few stares at her direction, considering she wouldn't blame them for not seeing her before. She came to the conclusion right when she started walking through the village, as well noticing her husband's face on the mountainside. That somehow 7 years went by. How she came to the conclusion? Let's just say after jumping out of the hospital window as well, not being an active ninja for a long time. Had the mother falling straight down into a noose caught, causing everything to fall apart and shattered into pieces. Though no serious wounds were made, Kushina apologized to the man as he scolded her. Then asked if she is alright, especially knowing the direction she came from. Boy, did she get a huge surprise after asking him how many years has passed since the Kyuubi incident. She sighed and hung her head down with some strands of hair, covering the side of her cheeks. Even if I lived in the village for 18 or 20 years, I still don't know where to go or finding the direction that I need to head towards. She muttered as well, accidentally bumping into somebody. She apologized to them without even looking and kept on walking. The person she ran into was Fukaku, the head clan of the Uchiha. Just stood there a bit dumbfounded and wondered if he was seeing things. Kushina, no, Fukaku, just keep walking. You had a very long week of work, he said to himself as well, shaking his head left and right. The week of work was his clan getting pranked yet again, from the demon container Naruto Uzumaki, who's somehow managing to sneak into the Uchiha compound and replace most if not all of their shampoo bottles with pink hair dye, the only two people who didn't suffer from the prank. were Itachi and Makoto, and he knows why too. It is because they were kind and generous to him despite what he has seal inside of him. His wife will always scold and explain to him that just because Naruto contains the 9 tails, does not rule out the fact he is a child. True to her words, though, Fukaku can see where the two are coming from. He just wish the boy will stop pranking them. Kushina was now resting on a bench with quivering eyes and stream of tears running through them. Not from sadness or feeling pain running through her body. She was just very lost and confused of where she is or where she came from. Despite everything looking familiar to her, some of the streets and buildings were oh so different to her eyes. I can't believe for someone who lived here her whole life, could easily get lost and confused of her village. She whined out and placed 2 of her hands up against her head while leaning forward. She knew she should have asked directions the moment she got out of the hospital. Hard enough she couldn't even find the right road that leads to the Hokage Towers. Before she went to muse any further, as well hearing her stomach growling out for food. She raised her head away from her hands as well, starting hearing what sounded like an angry mob next block over, as well growling out in anger as she went to investigate the problem. Kill the demon. Go back to the cave you belong to. Nobody wants you, you monster. Was the scene Kushina arrive at on top of one of the buildings, witnessing a small child being chased by a mob of what appears to be drunken villagers. One thing that has validated for one of her questions of what happened with Minato has been confirmed: the man used the Reaper Death Seal. A dangerous jutsu that seals away anything the user wants, with the cost of selling his soul to the Reaper. As well as being the only way to seal away the 9 tails into another person. Even though back then her and Kyuubi, despite the hatred the two brought upon each other over the years, actually got along quite nicely when Kushina started maturing and showing how skillful she was with her ninja skills. That the two of them turned a 180 in personality and became close acquaintances, at least in Kyuubi's words. She chased down the mob through the streets as her anger and temper was rising up very quickly. What makes it even appalling is that it was out in the open. Nobody, not even the ninjas nearby, isn't even stopping the mob from hurting the scared boy, as he was doing everything to dodge beer bottles, rocks, and even what appeared to be kunais and knives. She searched around a bit with her eyes wandering what the hell Sarutobi was doing. She knew the old man had a viewing orb, on the account whenever she gets bored, she will use the crystal orb to check or spy onto her friends. As well, it allows the Hokage to see everything that happens in the village, after watching the boy make a wrong turn at a dead end. She knew that it will end badly and had to get there in time before they really do kill him. Young Naruto threw his hands up in frustration. This always happened whenever his birthday is near, or when the villagers get so drunk that they will chase him to no man's land just for some reason, try and kill him. He never understood what he did to them or why they always call him a demon or a monster. At first, when he was young, he thought it was a game they were playing, only to finally get the message that they didn't like him or have anything to do with him, as they will go out of the way to kill him every year. He flinched a bit when he heard the thundering steps of the mob behind him, as he looked passively up into the sky. He turned around with no emotion on his face. If he begs for mercy, he will just get hurt. If he asks them why they do this, he will get hurt, no matter how many times they go through this routine. He knows that if you defend yourself, you get attacked as well. If you don't say anything, you get attacked. How that is fair I will never know. Oh well, might as well accept thy punishment, as they will say. He snarky thought out as he lowered his gaze halfway and then closed his eyes with his head turning away. Waiting for the beat downs he is going to receive yet again today. What the hell are you doing, Dattabayo? Screamed out a female voice high above them. That caused everyone to whip their heads, including Naruto, to look up and spotted the woman glaring down at them. He is only a child, he can't defend for himself. What has this village become? She continued and then promptly jumped down towards the ground, although panic when she felt her foot slipped out from underneath her when she landed on the dumpster and hit the ground on her bottom. All the while hissing and inhaling a lot of air, rubbing out the soreness as her face contorted, while the spectators who witnessed what they saw just stood there with blinking eyes. Even Naruto had to question how this woman, who came in with an impressive entrance at first, only to completely fail her landing, and she was supposed to be a ninja? Damn, that hurt. Still recovering from getting out of the hospital, she muttered out while standing up fully with gritted teeth and stretching of her back. Even though that was silly, I never seen her before? Let alone I didn't think any ninjas will be coming to my rescue. Wow, her hair is really beautiful. Naruto thought to himself with amazement, watching the woman standing right in front of him, protecting him from the mob in front of them, in which they managed to shake out of their stupor and screamed out to her, "What we are doing is honoring the fourth name. That demon has soiled his goodwill of protecting this village. We must purify it by killing it." This caused Kushina to twitch her eyebrows, all the while showing her fangs a bit with a growl, "Honoring the fourth, my ass. If Minato would see what you are doing to this boy, he will throttle all of you right where you stand. That doesn't sound like a bad idea though?" She thought darkly as well, rising her kill intent a bit, causing the mob in front of her to back away. "Honoring the fourth, huh? Humor me for a bit. What good will come out of it if you were going around killing innocent children?" she asked, all the while slowly walking forward with her fingers curling in and out a bit, watching in amusement at the way they were all backing away as well, gulping in fear. They have a funny feeling that they unleashed a wraith of something that was way out of their league. That and the way the woman's red hair was rising up into the air was also scaring the hell out of them. Naruto, who is watching this, knows he should feel scared from the display, but for some reason he didn't felt at all scared. Hell, what confused him the most is that his entire being and soul feels really relaxed and safe with this woman. "Well, I'm waiting?" She held onto the word a bit and grinned devilishly at them. Because the demon has reincarnated?" one of the brave villagers said, with their face turning into a praying smile, hoping that will be the correct thing to say, only to falter when the woman kill intent rise even higher. They knew they were in big trouble. All the while now knowing she is a ninja of the Leaf Village, this makes things even more worst. On the account she is by a law can bring execution to those who break the rules, and right now as well the feel she is giving off. They were going to get killed for attempted murder of a child. Wrong answer. Shadow clone jutsu. She shouted, all the while forming the hand seals, hoping that she at least have enough chakra to create a good amount, and boy did she ever. She summoned out over 100 shadow clones that were all prep and ready to do some beatings. Though it is a little overkill and outmatch, but hey, she will not tolerate what transpired here. Everyone gathered around at the spot of where the mob was, wondering what in the world happened at the scene. They knew that the demon brat wouldn't be able to take them all on, but they also remembered that red hair woman arriving towards the scene and figured she had something to do with this. They shook their heads and decided that reporting to the Hokage will be pointless, considering she was geared in ninja attire as well, probably working with the Hokage. Demon lovers is their response whenever a ninja goes and help the boy. Of course, this situation brought attention to the Anbu Black Ops, as they got their first clue of where Kushina might have been. They were not fools of why Sarutobi wanted them to go and seek out Kushina in the first place, and this is one of them. They were trailing Naruto that day before they felt Sarutobi chakras spiking out as well, calling them for assistance. They were neglected to leave the blonde child. But seeing how nothing bad happened to him, they figure he will be alright for now and left. Only now we know the villagers only attacks when there is no ninjas around. Spoken Anbu wearing a hawk mask, as they were tying up and collecting the trash that were trying to kill Naruto, or purify the village from his filth. "I don't think we need to worry about Kushina or Naruto," the Anbu captain explained as she looked down from one of the rooftops, causing most of them to stare up at her in shock behind the masks. "You do know Naruto is," she didn't needed to continued as all of the Anbu looked at one another, connecting the dots as well, remembering what Lord Hokage explained to them of whose child this was. Seeing a collective nod made Kat smile behind her mask. "Right, well, we have a job to do right now. That, and I'm sure Ibiki will love more cannon fodder for his torture devices." With a shout of "Yes ma'am," they gathered the knocked out villagers and headed towards the interrogation room, where you could almost hear a squeal of delight echoing throughout the village. "Here you are, another bowl of ramen," exclaimed a happy face Ayame, as she placed a fifth bowl to Naruto and his savoir, as they immediately dug into the food, causing Ayame to giggle out with her hands in a defensive position. "Dang, never will I see the day that somebody could rival his appetite," she exclaimed towards nobody as she openly laughed, seeing that the red hair woman and Naruto finished their fifth bowl and let out a huge breath of relief. "The ramen is always the best cure when you get chase," Naruto said happily while patting his full tummy, as well Kushina slurping up all of the ramen broth and slammed the bowl down onto the counter with a happy grin. "You said it, I haven't eaten at all," she said excitedly, all the while beaming down to Naruto, blinking her violet eyes a bit. then tilted her head slightly to the right. So this is the child who has the nine-tailed fox seal inside, huh? I'm amazed he was able to survive such a ritual? Nay, miss, how were you able to use such a jutsu? That was amazing, Naruto shouted with a happy smile, causing Kushina to blush lightly as well bashfully rubbed the back of her head. Never she got praised like that before, then again to a 7-year-old, that must be an amazing thing to see. Oh well, you know, a lot of practice and hard work pays off, ya know? She said as well, just sitting there quietly, watching the boy nod in understanding as well, turning back to eat his bowl of ramen some more. What is this weird feeling? It's like I know this child. But how? Before she could even ask the boy of why they were chasing him, Tuichi decided to finally come out from the kitchen with Naruto's 6th ramen. Alright, here you are, and, nah. His eyes bulged out as well, widened them at the sight he was seeing. Tuichi, wow, it's been a long time. Kushina exclaimed with her hands out for a handshake, giving off a very wide fox-like grin. Boy, do I have things to tell you. As well, ask if that was your daughter earlier. As well, all the things that I miss, and, why are you staring at me like that? She asked at the end with a blink of her eyes. This even caught Naruto and Ayame attention as the two looked between the man and woman. Of course Naruto whined, seeing that. Out of shock, Tuichi dropped his 6th bowl of ramen and with shaky movements approached Kushina. Is it really you, Kushina? This caused Ayame to even widen her eyes, remembering the tales that her father told her about how perfectly in sync the 4th Hokage was with a woman named Kushina before he earned the title. Kushina playfully rolled her eyes. She wouldn't blame the man not knowing she was alive, considering that she somehow slept for about 7 years. Even then, nobody can sleep for that long, unless they fell into a coma. Yes, Tuichi, it is me, honest. She quickly added while pulling her long red hair out a bit. Do you even see anyone with hair that sticks out a lot? She asked, while behind them a man let out a sneeze with his pink hair sticking out in different directions. Wondering where that suddenly came from, only to shrug his shoulders and keep moving forward. Kushina then winced a bit when Tuichi stepped in front of her and started stretching her cheeks and the likes. She didn't mind this at all. If this will help validate the man's thoughts and ease them, then by all means let him learn it the hard way. He pulled away as he is trying to fight back a few tears. It is you, hold on right there, Kushina, I'll go and get your usual food. Tuichi said, all the while stumbling over his own feet, causing a few pots and pans to clatter and bang into each other when doing so, as well letting out happy laughter. One Uzumaki original coming up. This earned Naruto to raise his head up a bit and smile at Kushina. You're a Uzumaki? He asked excitedly, earning Kushina's attention as she looked over towards the boy, wondering why he asked her if she was an Uzumaki, only to throw that thought out considering she must be the only one left. Yup, my name is Kushina Uzumaki, a kick-ass kunoichi of the Leaf Village Datbayo. She announced while bashfully rubbing the back of her head, hoping get rid of that bad habit of hers. No matter how excited she gets, she tends to shout those words whenever she gets too excited. This caused the woman to get a bit more bashful when Ayame and Naruto stared at her for a few more minutes, probably going to ask where she was all this time. Was at the hospital recovering from a very serious injury? She said with an embarrassing tone, as well lying. She didn't like to lie all that much. But if she were to tell them that she fell into a coma, ever since the 9 tails attacking the village, it might get the boy's trust broken, thinking that she wouldn't hang out with him. Though sighed on the inside seeing that they bought it, as well saying they were glad she was okay. Anyway, speaking of which, Ayame started while smiling and pointing towards Naruto. Naruto here is an Uzumaki too. All of the sudden everything went silent, as well Ayame and Naruto being alerted when Kushina dropped her chopsticks onto the ground and just sat there staring into space. Kushina-san, you alright? Asked Ayame, worried that she might have said something wrong to the woman, who slowly turned her head towards Naruto, as that name echoed throughout her head repeatedly just from hearing that name, the same name she named her newborn child. I'm sorry, what did you say? She asked, wanting to double-check that she heard right. Naruto this time smiled brightly, as well placing his arms behind his head, earning a quick flash of Minato's image appearing before Kushina. Hey, Ayame Ne-chan said that my name is Naruto Uzumaki. You are looking at the person who will be Hokage someday, he announced as memory flashed through Kushina's head, remembering the same dream she shouted out on her first day of class. What you all looking at will be the first female Hokage someday. Naruto, she quietly said, all the while her lips were quivering lightly. Her tongue was caught in her throat as tears were now falling from her closed eyes, causing Ayame and Naruto to panic a bit, wondering if she lost somebody who was named Naruto in the past. Then they raised their eyebrows in confusion when Kushina started smiling at the boy. "Naruto, my Naruto," she said with slight hiccuping, and before Naruto could ask what she meant, he was brought into a deep protective and love-like hug into the woman, with his head over her shoulders. Hearing the small sobs coming from her, in which was making Naruto upset that a woman like her will be crying. My son is alive. All this time I feared for the worst, and here he is," she cried out, earing Naruto to widen his cerulean eyes as well, looking over to Ayame, who was speechless and a bit angry. He could understand too, since his whole life of wondering where his mother or father was. Always questioning and asking the old man if they truly loved him, or if they really abandoned him. Only to get shrugged off from the old man whenever he will deliver the weekly paychecks to the boy. He then felt the woman, or supposedly mother, pulled him away a bit as she was smiling at him. He wanted to say that he probably wasn't really her son, but that relax and knowing feeling he is safe around her earlier, he just couldn't ignore it. He smiled brightly when he felt his mom rubbing her thumbs through his whisker-marked cheeks, as she returned his smile as well, trying to wipe away her tears. "You probably have a lot of questions and wondering why I never showed up, right?" she asked, getting a nod from both him and Ayame, only to then look at one another and back. "Yes, the hospital part is true, just that there you are, Kushina. I've been, oh Naruto, Ayame, I see you've met Kushina Aha," announced Sarutobi, as he finally arrived at the ramen shop, hoping he will be able to stop Kushina and Naruto interacting with one another. On the account he needed to explain the situation to Kushina of what transpired over the years. Only to see that he was too late as well, gulping in fear, from the way his blood ran cold as well the entire district. He saw death row waiting for him as Kushina's glaring eyes were now directing at him. "Matter of fact, Naruto, I think it would be wise if we have a meeting with the third Hokage, wouldn't you agree, my son?" After all, she then pulled out a few kunais from her weapons pouch, causing the boy and girl there to panic as well, fear for the old man's safety. "Our old man has a lot of explaining to do, as well, telling me why the villagers were trying to kill my son." "Sarutobi?" she said with venom behind each syllables of his name, and then grabbed onto his robes, dragging the now whimpering and cowering man. "Come on Naruto, we want to surprise everyone else, don't we?" she said with a big smile as she looked over towards the boy. He shook out of his stupor and nodded his head, following behind his long-lost mother towards the Hokage tower, only to stop himself from bumping into her as she sweat dropped and looked at Sarutobi, who stared back up. Which was it, to the council building? Continued down this road, then when you reach in front of the Hokage tower, make a left and you should find a tall cylinder-like building, can't miss it," Sarutobi explained, knowing full well he is dead either way, both going to the council room and if he were to give Kushina the wrong directions. "Thanks, and if I find out what I think has been going on for my son's 7 years of living here, do I have a lot to say as well, surprise this village," she finished, all the while continuing forward with a happy sway of her movement as well, choking the Hokage. "Dear Kami, protect me from whatever wraith this mother scorn will do," Sarutobi whimpered out, getting Naruto to glare at the old man. Making it even more worse that Naruto now knows he'd been lied to over the years as well, would like to learn why everyone always attacks him. The people in the council room are going to have a huge reality check for today's meeting. Everyone in the civilian council was in an uproar. The timing of announcing a council meeting was so darn perfect. Sarutobi couldn't believe of how much they yelling and screaming, announcing and demanding the death of Naruto. He hasn't informed anyone yet about Kushina's return, as the mother is right outside the doors, telling him to get everyone prepared, while she gets a quick history of how Naruto's life has been like. Glad he did too, considering he wasn't sure how long he would have survived if he stayed there. He kept slouching further and further down on his seat, feeling the rising kill intent behind those doors. He turned his gaze towards the ninja side of the council, seeing how everyone were transfixed on figuring out who is letting out that sort of ki. Even Sume was whimpering from the threat level that was seeping through them. Kaharu and Homura were sweating bullets as well, patting a few tissues over their heads, they were informed discreetly from Sarutobi himself, that Kushina had awakened and knows everything that transpired here. The two elders questioning him of why he hasn't informed the woman, before she escaped through the hospital. Only to let their anger slide when the third Hokage explained to them that her mindset at the time was still in the events 7 years ago as well escaping out of the hospital. For crying out loud, Lord Hokage, that demon must not allow to roam our fair streets like this, shouted one of the civilian councilman, who had a very scrounge-up face and works for the orphanage. He was the one who kicked Naruto out of the building, at the age of 5 years old. This man will be the first target of Kushina's wrath. I highly agree, Lord Hokage. The demon scum is nothing but troublesome and destructive. Did you know he managed to knock out over 30 villagers in the past hour? Shouted a female old woman, who looks and organizes the school papers and tests, marking them right or wrong. After finding out that Naruto's test results as well, ninja practicing were being tampered with, he informed Iruka to go back and look over any of Naruto's schoolwork that might have been casted with genjutsu, and boy was Iruka furious. How, you may ask, he knows this? Well, before they reached to the council building, Kushina demanded Sarutobi to create couple of shadow clones that will tag along with her own clones to the exact areas and locations of where Naruto was badly mistreated over the years, as well as two having evidences against the council. Boy, did he felt stupid of not going any further with investigating said areas. He sighed out as the bantering continued, as he then placed a hand over his face, all the while stretching it down gently. He then shifted his eyes towards the clock right above the doors, knowing in 3 minutes to have Kushina prepared as well, waiting for their clones to gather up all the evidence they need for this meeting. Hell, he was livid as the memories were pouring into him from what they discovered. So much that now everyone in the room was cowering from the man himself, thinking that the civilian council had pushed him far enough to having the old man snap. "Shut the hell up, will you?" he screamed while slamming his fists hard into the table, that literally almost snapped in two from the sheer force, getting everyone attention at him as well, the elders and Danzo with wide eyes. "Demon this, demon that, you know all of the things you saying is blasphemy." He accused, getting the civilians to become hurt at what he just said. This earned a few glancing stares from the ninja clan heads, surprise of the third Hokage making an accusation like that at the get-go, though now they were all interested in what he discovered that they've been telling him over the years. Shikaku thought of sleeping through the meeting on the account. He is getting tired of the same old thing about how Naruto did this, or did that. Not today though. Seeing the Hokage ready to take the helm and getting the dirt out of the civilian side was far more interesting for the lazy head clan to watch. Sume was giving out a very toothy wide grin, finally that some action was going to take place. She can see the headlines now, third Hokage taking down the bastardized civilian council in one fell swoop. It will make millions. Hiyashi leaned a bit forward on his table, on the account it intrigued him in seeing Sarutobi behave like this. He saw the small glance of his eyes going from shock to anger very quickly. Did he use shadow clones to further investigate? Hiyashi thought to himself, all the while trying to figure out the second kill intent that was radiating off the room. Danzo was curious if he finally caught on what been happening to Naruto. About time, old friend. There goes the plan of taking Naruto in. But for some reason he actually felt glad that Sarutobi is finally noticing what's been happening to the young boy, that, and if he is guessing this right, whoever is out there with that level of ki, have mercy to those who will rest in pieces. Lord Hokage, what are you saying? One of them asked while standing up, only to sit back down when Sarutobi stood up with a very steel-cold glare. You all know what I am talking about, all of you, minus Haruno and the head clans. He quickly added with a smile towards the woman, who in return just waved it off, on the account she too wasn't sure if what they did was true or not. Come on, and I think you will do better at this than I would. He shouted at the doors, causing everyone there to stare towards the only exit and freedom they have. Whoever it was that were about to come through those doors, has dirt on what the civilian council did to Naruto. The doors slammed open very quickly, almost breaking out of their hinges, causing most of the people in the room startled from the sudden action, all the while having a big idea of just how this person is really upset of what happened to young Naruto. After getting out of their startled state, almost everyone fell out of their seats, while some were choking on their glass of water as they never expected the one person to ever walk through those doors many years in their life. All the while some of the ninjas were trying to release some genjutsu that might affecting them, causing the red hair woman to breath out some air into her bangs, while giving them, "You're kidding me look?" As she then turned her attention towards the third Hokage, seeing how equally mad he was of what had been happening. Although still felt guilty for not noticing any of this as well, trying to avoid eye contact from Kushina. "Who is this disrespectful woman? How dare she barge in like that with such manner?" shouted a councilman with his nose up in the air, disgusted at the display this demon lover had when entering the room. "Hey Koharu, you've gotten even more wrinkles than before." Kushina smirked as she approaches to the center of the room, giving the old lady almost a heart attack as she moved forward in shock and then straightened up. Hiyashi, who was trying to figure out if his senses were going out of whack, activated his Byakugan as the veins around his eyes pulsed a bit. Zero in on Kushina, who blinked her violet eyes confusingly towards the Hyuga. Then tilted her head gently to the left with squinted eyes, wondering what the heck he is doing. Then smiled brightly, now knowing it was Hiyashi. "Yes, Hiyashi no Genjutsu, this is the real me," she explained, easing his thoughts as the man was trying everything not to break into a small tear, considering how upset Hikari was of losing her close friend. He nodded towards her and the other head clans, to confirm that it was definitely Kushina Uzumaki standing in their presence to the council. "Well, is somebody going to explain why this demon-loving hag is in our act?" The fat councilman never finished his sentence as Kushina hair raised up quickly into 9 pigtails, all the while turning around so fast in quick movements of her hand. Pulled out a kunai from her pouch and threw it straight at the man's neck, killing him on the spot as all the head clans blinked their eyes all at once. Said, "Nice shot. Lord Hokage, arrest that woman for killing." "For what, huh? I believe she just got insulted as well." The man himself broken the 4th law of never speaking of the demon around anyone who hasn't or doesn't know anything about the sealing him. He explained, causing almost, and I mean almost everyone to snicker as well, laughing at the way he placed his shoulders onto his desk with his hands resting underneath his chin, smiling broadly at the woman who wanted him to arrest Kushina. "Now, after that bastard is taken care of, and stop insulting me. What the hell is this about killing Naruto Uzumaki, my Naruto?" she screamed out with lot of venom. Thankfully it was all directed towards the 3rd and Civilian Council, although the ninja side will get a few passing glances, considering they could have had some of their ninjas help her son out during these mob attacks. "For Kami's sake, I just stop and subdued over 30 drunken villagers who wanted him dead as well, trapping him at a dead end," she continued, seeing some of the civilian playing dumb in front of her. Her brows twitched as she knew that they have no idea who the hell they were messing with. "Well, I'm waiting for an answer. Why should we even bothered answering you? We don't know who you are and probably don't even live here," one of the council said with glasses as he shifted it up and down. Then an elderly woman went next. "He is right, why should you care, outsider?" That had everyone face palming at the wrong choice of words to use in front of Kushina. Considering her past, she had nothing but felt like an outcast to the village ever since the land of whirlpools been destroyed. "Don't you ever call me an outsider again. You see this headband?" she shouted while pointing up to her leaf band. "Does it not show that I am part of the Leaf Village?" she continued while ready to pummel this one to the ground, only to have Sarutobi raise a hand to calm her down. "Easy Kushina, let's try and stay on topic, alright?" he stated, watching the mother breath in and out with quick breaths, as she was ready to decimate everyone on the left side of the room, seeing that she crossed her arms and looked away, in her way saying he has permission to talk. "Okay, now I will continue for Kushina," seeing how rudely we were interrupted without getting our answers. He sneered towards the civilian side as they just rolled their eyes. They don't care what happens to the demon brat. They have no evidences that they were the ones who issue his death. "Kushina Uzumaki here." He then got interrupted as he stared blankly ahead of him, hearing the shouts from the civilian side, saying horrible things like she is the demon brat mother. "We should banish them from the village, or put them on a pike." Hey, I may be a lazy person in these meetings, but watch your tone and your steps, councilman. Don't forget you are dealing with others who too have children of their own," Shikaku said with a very dead serious look in his eyes, along with the others. Hell, even Danzo, Koharu, Homura and Fukaku were glaring deadly at them. How dare they talk about a mother like that, who only crime she had was protecting her son from his killers. Hell, the more livid out of them all was Hiyashi. Considering he almost lost Hinata during a kidnapping with Cloud Ninjas, making him and Hikari devastated and loss of what would happen if they were to succeed, even losing his brother when they demanded the head of the Hyuga clan leader. He had to watch his cousin Neji break down in his lap as he explained to him what transpired, as well giving his brother's letter for the boy, explaining to him that it was his choice that he made out of freedom, as well glad that he was able to save both Hinata and his younger brother. "Please Kushina, tell us, is Naruto alright?" Hiyashi asked while standing straight up from his seat. The red-hair mother was shocked to see how worried Hiyashi was, as well wanting to know if Naruto is alright. She then saw him sending some silent sign language of how Naruto and Hinata, as well Shikamaru, Choji, Kiba and Shino were all friends with the boy. She grimaced a bit, as well reluctant to tell a lie. On the account right before the three of them were approaching the council building, Kushina was told everything by Naruto of how rough his life was with the villagers. Minus a few who were part of the ninja clans, that she hatched up an idea with her son and Sarutobi. 3 hours before entering the council room, "You want to fake my death?" asked a concerned Naruto Uzumaki. Hearing this plan about his mom wanting to move them away from the Leaf Village and find another village to live in, was a bit ludicrous until she started explaining to him that if they were to move to another village, he won't be getting this type of treatment. "I know it sounds horrible, Naruto, but hearing your tale and how your life was, I just don't want to risk it," she explained while rubbing the boy's back. All three of them were sitting down on a bench near a river stream. As they were listening to the rushing waters that were splashing and running through the village, lightly hitting the more open body of water. Sarutobi, who was with the two as well hearing the idea, was shocked. Shock on how the villagers treated Naruto, as well believe he was the reincarnation of the Nine Tails. All the while Kushina went and dropped the bomb to the boy, that he is harboring the fox inside of him. Kushina softened her gaze as Naruto looked down at his stomach, where the seal was, all the while tilting his head to the right and then to the left. "So wait a minute, the reason they are mad is because of the fox?" Which he got a slight nod from Kushina, but it wasn't the fox that attacked, it was some man wearing a mask. This got Sarutobi's attention, considering he knew there was something off during that incident 7 years ago. "That's right, he wanted to use the fox to destroy the village, by forcing it out from inside of me." She then sighed and looked down to her lap as her fist balled up on her pant legs. "Your father the fourth probably thought I died right there when he arrived, wanting to tell me that he is going to use the Reaper Death Seal to reseal the fox inside of you, and he succeeded," she explained with a sad tone. The wind blew gently across all three of them, feeling the sorrow of Minato's spirit blowing past them, trying to say how sorry he is to both her and Naruto. Naruto, who was listening in on the story, looked down as well, leaning his head against his mom's shoulder, earning the mother to smile as she rested her cheek with his blonde spiky hair. "You know, I did made some friends, Ka-san," he stated quietly, as Kushina understands that her son probably doesn't want to leave them behind, though something tells me they will probably get attacked as well. Sarutobi wanted to comfort the two Uzumakis so much, but what Naruto's saying is true, especially earlier when he explained to Kushina that since he is the Hokage, he never really had much time to go out into the village as well check over things. Hell, he always wondered why none of the local ninjas even help Naruto out whenever he gets chased. The only real ninja, whoever assisted young Naruto, were Itachi Uchiha whenever he is out scouting the village. He shook his head at another problem to deal with, and that is the coup de grace that the Uchiha clan is planning in the next couple of months. "Listen Naruto, I'm sure you will make a whole bunch of new friends where we are going," Kushina exclaimed suddenly, as well getting the boy's attention, as well Sarutobi. "If we plan this right, as well permission from Sarutobi and the Mizukage, I'm sure we will be welcome there." Thus how their plan to fake Naruto's death came to be made. Sarutobi actually pondered on the idea for a bit before they executed and said that it was a great idea. Consider Whirlpool and Kirigakure were close to each other, as well the Azukage and Mizukage from rumors alone were good close friends. They would probably welcome the Uzumaki family with open arms. So they agreed, and Sarutobi sent out a messenger bird towards the Mizukage, with all the details they needed to know about Kushina and Naruto's arrival, as well permission for allowing them to become mist ninjas. Now the only problem Kushina might have to go through is guilt. Boy, does it eat you up badly. "I'm sorry to say, Hiyashi, but I was too late," she silently said, seeing the man skip a few years as well, frozen in place. Then the two of them growled, hearing how the civilian side were murmuring and cheering for the demon's death. "You feeling proud of yourselves, aren't you?" she growled out while turning around to face the other side, murdering and killing a young child. "Who I remind you that he is only 7 years old, still attending the academy and had big dreams of wanting to be a ninja, a Hokage." She yelled all the while with her back turned to the others. She was giving them all sign language, explaining that Naruto isn't really dead. Making Hiyashi rest a hand on his chest and blow out some calming breaths, including the other head clans, with Sume shaking her head left and right, all the while fanning her face. "You have any idea how wrong it is to kill someone like that boy? As much you are a mother to that child, that spawn, we don't really give a damn." They replied back, causing the elders, Danzo and Sarutobi, to start charging up their chakra. As well with the others, they are definitely pushing it too far. Though we're all confused when Kushina just laughed darkly, as well, resting 2 fingers on her head, giving them her traditional fox grin. "You want to know who sealed the fox inside of Naruto?" she continued, shifting her violet eyes over towards Sarutobi. Seeing that he already explained to them that the 4th sealed away the demon inside of Naruto, let me rephrase that question. "You want to know how the sealing process works?" she said again, getting the council attention when they were about to tell her they knew about the 4th sealing it. Only to stop their muttering when Kushina started explaining with a dumbed-down version of how the Reaper sealing works. All the while saying how that the only way to truly seal away the fox is by having a newborn child be the jailer, as well, hoping that they will be strong enough to handle the transfer. She then silenced them with a burst of ki at them. "I am not done finishing. The sealing doesn't affect the baby in the mother's air." She looked up in thought, trying to recall what they call it when the baby is being born inside. "Well, you know what I mean. It doesn't work like that. The baby themselves have to actually be born in order to do so." Though once again got ignored and was losing her patience once more, as they were so demanding on their blindness that demons who are sealed are reincarnations of the baby being born out of the mother. Then went on to saying how she should be ashamed for having Naruto. "Hokage, elders, Danzo and head clans?" she asked with trembling arms, indicating that everyone should leave right about now, all the while noting that they have managed to do the impossible possible. They've unleashed the wrath of Kushina Uzumaki. "Please leave the room now." And with that everyone disappeared instantly, leaving only her and the civilians in the room, who all gulped and started soiling themselves, except Haruno, who was grabbed at the last minute with the other ninjas. The entire room suddenly went dark a bit, as the only thing they could see was Kushina's form with glinting glaring eyes and 9 red ponytails waving up and down with immense chakra glowing around her body. "You shall feel how a mother gets her revenge." All the while the ninjas outside all heard blood-curdling screams and sounds of weapons, poundings and explosions inside the room. All hoping that the red-hair mother wouldn't go as far as killing them all. Sume then scoffed with her arms crossing. "Man, if I knew she was going to kill them, I would have joined in." Then smiled at Sarutobi. "Be glad, Lord Hokage, that would have also been you in there," she jokingly said, as well, getting everyone to agree with collective nods as they saw the 3rd Hokage just standing there frozen in place. Considering she is right, that would have been him as well if he didn't explain the situation to Kushina in time. It was late at night at 1 a.m. in the morning. The owls were hooting through the dark. Crickets chirping in the night, as the rustling and brushing of the tree branches rustled with the night wind. The lights in the Leaf Village were off as everyone is in bed sleeping, with warm blankets and family to stay with. No one walks in the dead of night in this village that a pin being dropped to the ground could easily be heard. The paper trash lightly rolled and bounced across the streets, as well, getting stuck up against the trash bins that were placed out on the streets. All of the giant gates that surrounded the village walls, as well being the only thing that leads to the outside forest, were being watched and guarded 24/7. Except for the main gates, they were wide open as a traveling duo were getting ready to set out on their journey. A journey of a new place to live, where they won't be ridiculed or attacked by anyone within these walls. "You sure you want to do this, Kushina?" asked Sarutobi, who handed her a couple of traveling scrolls, as well many scrolls about chakra control, jutsu, history of the leaf and the likes for young Naruto to study up on. All the while some jutsus that might help the two along the way, even some basic training exercises for the boy. She let out a small sigh as her and Naruto were packing things up in their traveling bags. "Yes, I am not staying in a village that will do this to a child." Despite them being a Jinchuriki or not, you know how appalled I am with the way they get treated. She stated in a matter-of-fact tone, as Naruto, for once in his life will be finally spending time with his mother, ready to ask her any questions that he wanted to know. Like what her likes and dislikes, what is her favorite food. Though he could easily tell it was probably ramen with the way she ate 5 bowls with him. What are her favorite jutsu and about his family, his Uzumaki clan. There was so much he wanted to know and knew he wouldn't be able to ask all of them. If he were to just stand around doing nothing, then thoughts of his friends started entering his head. He wondered how they will react about him leaving the village. Obviously probably upset or being told about his death. Since this was the only way for his mother and him to leave the village, which is pretty valid reason for his mother to do so. Then there was Hinata, the Hyuga heiress that he protected from the bullies that were picking on her the one day. He wondered how she will react, considering their friendship started after the next couple of days. When she asked her father if they could visit him and thanked the boy for saving her life, he couldn't help but smile at the way she bashfully approached him and shook hands with the boy. Alright Kushina, and yes, I got a response back from the Mist Village. The Mizukage will welcome you with open arms, as well explaining to me how he is glad that somebody from the village survived. Did you know? He was a close friend with the Azukage? He said to the mother as he widened her eyes and shook her head. No, I didn't. Then again, since the war. She bashfully rubbed her head, seeing Sarutobi lightly laughed. Right, anyway, you and Naruto have a safe trip, alright. He then knelt down in front of the boy, smiling sadly. He wasn't sure how to speak with him or how to make it up to Naruto. There was so much things he needed to apologize that it was grating him badly. I'm sure I don't need to tell you to listen to your mother? Hey, no need, old man, seeing how my mom scared the living daylights out of anyone who gets her mad. I have to be quite stupid to get on her bad side. He laughed alongside with Sarutobi, as the two of them looked up at Kushina, who turned her head away from them, blushing badly. I am not that scary, she retorted, earning another fistful of laughter from Naruto and Sarutobi that she couldn't help but join in as she brought her hand up to her mouth and laughed alongside them. Alright, it is getting late. We should try and get some good distance, Naruto, she explained to her son, who nodded as he wrapped his backpack around his shoulders and onto his back. Before they got any distance, they turned around after hearing what sounded like a voice calling out, Naruto-kun, wait. It belonged to Hinata, as she was trying her best to run in her pajamas towards the boy, holding what looked like a green wallet with Hiyashi following right behind her. Hinata-chan, what are you doing this late at night? He asked while bending down a bit, when the girl finally approached him and hunched down. Trying to regain her breathing, and once she did, rose her body back up as well, having slight tears. I wanted to say goodbye, before you leave with your mother, Naruto-kun? She explained while hoping that it was okay as she looked up at Kushina, who smiled down to her and nodded. Also, I wanted to give you this. She blurted out quickly with her head bowing and her arms stretched out. Oh cool, it's the Gamakachi wallet that I saw in the store. Naruto exclaimed, accepting the gift from the girl, causing her to smile with a blush. It's an early birthday present, Naruto-kun. This caused the boy to whip his head at Hinata. The girl who he was friends with went out of her way to buy him a present. He never got a present before in his whole life. Well, okay, maybe the free vouchers for Ichiraku's ramen that he got from the old man, but never actually a real gift. This had Sarutobi to snap his fingers as Hinata just helped him with his dilemma of apologizing to Kushina and Naruto. He pulled out a notepad from his pocket and quickly started writing down some ninja hand signs on the paper, getting Hiyashi to lean over the Hokage's shoulder. Wondering what he is writing, only to smile at the hand signs and jutsu that he wanted to give to the boy. Not a bad idea, he muttered and asked for the notepad himself, which Sarutobi chuckled and handed to him, having a good idea that he was going to give some old water and wind-style jutsu to the mother and son. After they got done writing them down and handing them to Kushina, saying how these are also gifts from the two, telling her to have Naruto learn them whenever she thinks he is ready. Despite her being in a coma for 7 years and Naruto living a horrible life in the Leaf Village, there were people out there who were watching over her during the time she was out of commission, as well those who did everything in their power to protect Naruto from the mobs. Thanks again, Hinata, this is the best present ever, Naruto exclaimed, getting the girl smile brightly as well blush from the compliment. Now can you promise something for me? Huh? This was sudden a promise from Naruto? It definitely got the girl curious and wondering what it is he wanted her to make a promise with. She then watches how he pulled his fist out forward with his trademark smirk. Show everyone that you are strong and confident. That being and acting like that is a way to trick your enemies into dropping their guard when they at least expect it. He explained, getting the girl blink her eyes. He wanted her to show everyone that she can be strong and that she can be confident into the things she does. After all, Hinata, you have the best ninja weapon there is, and that deceiving the enemy. This had Hiyashi widen his eyes. He never actually thought to look into Hinata's shyness and lack of confidence as a tool before. Now that he thought about it, his wife was exactly the same when he first met her and literally kicked his ass many times in practice battles and rounds, in which attracted the man towards her over the years. He is right, Hinata, Hiyashi said with his hand resting on her shoulders, getting the girl to stare up at him. All the while seeing him smiling. What is a ninja's greatest tool? She thought it over a bit, all the while coming to the conclusion, seeing everyone's expression turning into smiles as well, nodding of their heads with Kushina yelling, "The ninja's true weapon is deceiving the enemy, databane," she said with excitement while growling to her own self as that famous quote of hers burst out. They were right now that Hinata thought of it that way before, knowing now that she can be a great ninja with the way she is as well, using it with her and not against her. She can be strong as well, being able to keep Naruto's promise. You are right everyone, thank you, and thank you Naruto-kun. I will keep my promise and someday show you how much I have improved, she exclaimed with a smile and connected her own fist with his. With their last goodbyes and farewells, Hiyashi, Hinata and Sarutobi wave off towards the Uzumaki family, wishing them luck on their journey as well, having a safe trip towards Kirigakure Mist Village, as it will be a long road ahead of them. What awaits the Uzumaki family as well, the dangers they will be facing. It is around 3 am in the morning in the Leaf Village. Everyone by now is at their homes sleeping and resting, having no idea what had transpired yesterday or what the commotion were about, considering that after the last mob attack, nobody has heard any noise or ruckuses from Uzumaki Naruto, the demon scorn who lives in the village. Danzo, after making sure that everything was cleared and accounted for, issued another council meeting. But this time only to the civilian side and village elders. As he is approaching the council building, he gave another quick glance and pulse of chakra to see if he was followed or not. Seeing that nobody dared to follow him, he nodded and entered the building by opening and closing the door. The sight he was witnessing was, as he would say, disgraceful, all of you, he muttered out as he was calmly taking to his seat, listening and getting some glares from multiple councilmen. So I'm sure you all now know that messing with the Jinchuriki's mother and ninja is not wise? He asked in a bad humor, as he took his seat between the elders, who heard and listened to Danzo findings as well, disturbing news of what they've just let out from their village. One of the councilmen who were sitting had 1/2 bandages covering his entire right face. His shoulder and arms were in casts, even his right leg had to be in a cast, from all the impaling of kunais and shurikens that Kushina used on him. Can we just get on with it, Lord Danzo? Some of us aren't in perfect condition as well, suffering memory losses. The one councilman wearing glasses groaned out, trying to right himself on his seat. Right, of course, after the meeting is adjourned you all can get healed by one of my medical ninjas, he explained, getting everyone to nod their heads as he leaned forward with his hands folded up to his face. Now the topic we are going to discuss is our military power rankings between the other nations, he stated, getting everyone to look at him. Homura this time continued for Danzo, placing a folding on the table in front of him. Apparently the person you all witnessed and angered was none other than our top-ranked shinobi, Kushina Uzumaki of the Uzumaki clan. As well, her son that was deemed killed is also from the Uzumaki clan and container of the nine-tailed fox. Except knowing the demon brat being the container, the civilian council did not know that the person they angered and left the village tonight was one of their top-ranked shinobi. They would try and be in an uproar, but it was late at night and they can barely move as it is. Okay, so we may not know how ninja business works, but where are you telling us, Danzo? The old woman asked, as she adjusted her broken leg a bit, wincing. Right now, besides the Uchiha clan, the possibility of getting our military power far stronger than the other nation's opportunity has been in our reach. He then glared deadly at them. We had Kushina right where we wanted her. She wouldn't be able to leave the Leaf Village. On the account we had her son in our custodies, it would have been easy to have her in bending knees with our orders. He then leaned back onto his chair, seeing everyone closing their eyes and nodding one another, as well feeling really bad about what they have done. What is more importantly, the Uzumaki clan have greater life force than other ninjas, are skilled in funjutsu as well as using kenjutsu. He then raised his hands from one of them about to outburst. As well our only Jinchuriki in which we had for 7 years, who is harboring the nine-tailed fox. Was our only real military power against other nations who too have Jinchurikis in their countries as well? May I remind you of Kumogakure have 2 Jinchurikis at their disposal, with the 8-tailed Jinchuriki he had encountered the 4th Hokage? He likes the results the civilians were displaying. They were actually berating themselves for their behavior yesterday, as well the cost their actions made too, having one of the best ninjas they have in their disposal, leaving the village without a second glance. They have to bring her back. They need her back anyway, as well now they know about Uzumaki's having strong life force. They could have Kushina in a CRA, Clan Restoration Act, to breed even more Uzumaki ninjas in the Leaf Village, making them the strongest nation of the ninja world. Don't flatter yourself knowing Kushina's personality, she will not take the CRA. Despite wanting to have her clan back into fruition, exclaimed Kaharu, trying to stop the council from getting a big ego in their heads. There is yet another matter we must discuss. The 4th Mizukage himself is also a Jinchuriki and can fully control it with no problem. I have confirmed and got detailed information from my root Anbu, telling me the location that Kushina was heading towards, as well making that her new home. He then quickly raised his hand once more, all the while going to like the response he is going to receive. How they know? Well, let's just say, a little heiress led them straight towards Kushina, who at the time was saying her goodbyes to Sarutobi Hiruzen as well Naruto Uzumaki. There was the response, everyone screaming out and going ballistic, as well saying that Kushina had told them he had perished. Many yells and screams were being made, as well words of how the demon-making mother would lie to them, as well take their only real military strength from the village. Now who is the blame for the cause of Naruto leaving? Oh, that is right. You civilians, I informed you to tell everyone in the village to make sure you don't overdo your actions to the boy, until he is at a breaking point where I could easily have him under our thumbs. He scolded at them, as well leering darkly. His plan to have the boy under his control had literally slipped through his fingers. Add in the fact that Kushina and Sarutobi had plotted behind their backs, made it even more embarrassing. The 3rd Hokage sure lives up the name of being the professor in tacticians. We must bring them back. If we let them go to Kirigakure, it will surely make them even stronger of a nation, with both the 4th Mizukage's demon spirit and the 9-tailed fox. One of the council shouted, groaned out in worriment. I too in agreement, as well got some research to look over Kushina Uzumaki's files here in the Leaf Village. If what we know is true about her skills in Funjutsu, as well going to explain to us how the fundamentals worked when sealing a demon spirit, then we can literally say that the power struggle between our nations will be in favor of Kirigakure. This worried Kaharu and Homura greatly on the account they honestly didn't want to let Kushina leave the village after hearing about how she survived the attack from the 9 tails, as well being in a comatose state. All the while what Danzo announced and said were true, they could have easily handled Kushina without any problems. Since they had her son under watchful eye every 24/7, they can easily give the order to kill the boy right in front of the mother, if she were to go against their commands. Danzo chuckled lightly as he was hearing many different opinions and outbursts that were being shouted. He was glad he had one of the root Anbu following the young Hyuga heiress, to confirm his suspicions of Naruto actually being dead or not. To him it can still work out. Naruto doesn't have any ninja skills yet and only knows the basic academy levels, that capturing him and bringing him back to the Leaf Village will be quite easy. Although there were the matter of Kushina still, that chakra chains of hers will be quite the bad factor in kidnapping Naruto. Danzo, do you have something you like to share with us? Asked Kaharu. Seeing the man grin and smiling like that means he definitely have something in mind. They all waited for the man to gather his thoughts, as well him sipping his glass of water. Fret not everyone, I may not look like it, but I am a war hawk and have devised many ideas of how we can bring the 2 betraying Uzumakis back to the Leaf Village. He told them darkly while sipping his drink. And what will that be? He then leered forward with his one eye open and responded, we attacked the most precious thing a mother could ever want in her life. The next day early in the morning at the Hyuga compound. You are a fool, Hinata. The harsh tone in Hiyashi voice boomed in the study halls. The stunt you pulled last night is and was the most undignified for an heiress to behave. He continued scolding her, as Hikari Hiyashi, wife and mother of Hinata and Hanabi, had to agree with her husband on this one. Despite his cold and harsh demeanor, he is very kind and lovable. Always looking out what is best for the clan and his daughters, although right now, even she will have to say what Hinata did was dangerous, especially considering her friend just announced to the council of Naruto's death or faked death in a way to escape from the village. I know, father, but Hinata tried to explain, only to flinch from his hand slamming down into the table, causing the heiress to look down with clenched eyes. She knew pushing the wrong buttons was bad and is now receiving the consequences of her action. No, but Hinata, as an heiress you need to plan these things out more, as well, not acting out on your own emotions. That is what causes many deaths and losses to a ninja out in the field. Do you want Naruto to die? He asked at the end, causing the girl to whip her head up at him. No, of course not, I just wanted, she tried to explain only to get interrupted again. Even though she is feeling awful about what she did, that promise she made for Naruto some reason is edging her on to stand up for herself and the decision she made. I don't understand why father is like this. I mean, okay, so that was, without her father noticing, Hinata played out the scene in her head of how things might or would have happened if she was suddenly followed by group of Leaf Village ninjas, that the council probably sent out to confirm of Naruto's mother leaving the village. All the while tailing after her with thoughts of something, or someone was chasing after her with the way she was running through the streets. Just what Hinata, by risking the operation and the safety between the two for just giving the boy a birthday present. He continued on scolding his daughter, much he doesn't like doing so. He had to in order to let the girl know what wrong she did. Hikari, on the other hand, just tilted her head and blinked at her eldest daughter. She was noticing how Hinata's lavender eyes moving left and right slowly, as well in fashions of probably going through her thoughts. Then whenever Hiyashi continued speaking, Hinata would suddenly harden her stare just slightly, absorbing everything he is telling her. Hinata, posture change ever slightly? What are you planning, my daughter? Hikari thought to herself and smiles softly at her daughter change in posture. Anything you like to say, Hinata? Hiyashi asked while crossing his arms, glaring hard at her. Then and there the man had to blink his eyes couple of times at the sudden response he got from the girl whenever the topic was on Naruto. She will try and do everything to defend why she behaved like it, or the need to rush out and greet the boy. No, you are absolutely right, father. I wanted to give Naruto his gift on the account I saw him heading out to the gates, thinking that something was wrong, as well having doubting thoughts. That he might be running away. I wasn't thinking straight and my actions could have cost their lives. She finished saying while bowing down in front of the two. This is where Hiyashi kept blinking his eyes in disbelief. He never ever thought he will see Hinata accepting so openly of her actions, especially around Naruto. She would usually try and explain much as possible for her actions, but no, she didn't retort, she didn't defend herself. She calmly thought through of probably many situations in her head, of what would occur if Naruto and Kushina were to be caught red-handed, as well Kushina lying to the council about Naruto's death. In all his life he known Hinata, this was a factor even he didn't expect. Alright then, yes, that is good, you understand, daughter. But don't you go thinking this won't. He then backed up a bit when Hinata steeled up her stance and leaned forward. I am ready for any kind of punishment, father. I have to set my mind and have it eased up for the wrong I did. Yeah, where in the world did Hinata suddenly get this courage from? Were going through her father's head. He then remembered Naruto making Hinata a promise for him last night. He looked over to Hikari, seeing that she is making baby noises to Hanabi as the little bundle of joy was smiling up to her with her gums showing, playfully trying to grab her finger. He then looked back at Hinata, her stare still holding on to that courage and determination. She was so much like her mother, there is no doubt in his mind, that if Hinata were to pull off the things Naruto explained to her, as well using her mother's skills. Once again, Naruto Uzumaki, I have to thank you for helping my daughter. He thought to himself and started shaking his head, getting everyone who was sitting there at the table to look up at him and blink their eyes as he stood up and went into head clan mode, raising his kill intent. Alright, daughter, from this day on, as well for your punishment, you will be training on the ways of a Hyuga. Then gets interrupted by Hinata once more, as well shocked at what she announced to him. In all due respect, father, I know our clan specializes in the Byakugan and gentle fist taijutsu. But even you and I know that we must have more in our disposal than taijutsu. even to those who excel in ninjutsu. She explained with closed eyes and a smile. At first he was going to retort and said there was nothing wrong with the gentle fist style, but dropped the subject. Hinata in all kami honesty was correct. They can shut down chakra points, create a dome of chakra to shield them from enemy attacks, as well use the rotation as a weapon. They can see all 360 degrees angles when activating their dojutsu. Good it all sounds. What use will they have these techniques? If they can't get a single touch or reach to their opponents in time, all the while being forced back when they use long-range jutsu. She is right, dear. I'm sure even you don't want the Hyuga clan to get big egos like the Uchiha clans, who only honor in learning the ways of the Sharingan and copying others' ninjutsu, do you? Hikari beamed while tilting her head. That validates it as well. Explain where Hinata got the idea from. It was the same with the other clans. They learn their clan techniques and ways, but always making sure that they don't focus all on it and have at least backups to their teachings, including the Yamanakas who specialize in mind swap techniques, are started to teach their members to use ninjutsu just in case they know their clan techniques don't work. He shook his head and let out a chuckle as well, nudging his head for Hinata to follow him, which she quickly bowed to her mother and followed right after her father. You are absolutely correct, my daughter. If we were to stick with our ways of training for too long, our enemies will sooner or later find their way around the gentle fists and Byakugan techniques, all the while using them against us. He explained to the young heiress, who was smiling, also being shocked that her father took in her suggestion as she quickly turned her head towards a wall without him noticing, whispering out quietly to herself saying, I can't believe he agreed with me. She then quickly turned her attention back to her father as they were stepping out into the Hyuga training fields. So from now on your punishment will be training every hour, by the hour and on the hour whenever you are home. You will eat breakfast, lunch and dinner as well, will be pushed to your body limitations until you can't move, all the while not stepping out of the compound. He turned around to face her as the girl nodded her head in understanding, although he could see some doubts on that last bit. I think it will be safe to say that staying in here away from Danzo will benefit both us and the Uzumaki's, Hinata. He explained with a worried glance as well, Hinata giving the same expression. Who knows what the Warhawk will force Hinata to say. You will have a guide that will walk you to the school, as well on the weekends you will be free from training. Understood? Yes, father. She replied back and got into her taijutsu stance as well, Hiyashi, with the two glaring down at each other getting ready to start the punishment, as well Hinata keeping her promise for Naruto. They charged at each other with a skip as Hinata was approaching her father. She pulled her arm back ready to strike. I will keep your promise, Naruto-kun. The two were only centimeters apart. I can change and I will get stronger, I won't back down. From this day forth, they both then shouted their battle cries with both palms ready to strike each other down. I will change for the better and become more confident. Thwack, smack, thud. Class, please settle down and get into your seats as well. I have some depressing announcements to make soon, so you have 10 minutes of free time to yourselves. Iruka's voice rang as he was looking over the students, counting in his head of how many was here as well their faces. Only to sadden when his head turned towards the direction where Naruto's usual spots were at, seeing some questioning looks from Kiba, Choji, Shikamaru and Sakura, who kept giving glances towards the door, wondering when the bright happy blonde kid will burst in. Even Sasuke, who was fiddling around with a paper shuriken origami, also looked up with his black eyes, wondering where his class fighting rival will be entering the room also. Though they immediately smile only to become upset that it wasn't Naruto who came into the door, but Mizuki. Iruka chuckled lightly as well, shaking his head as he couldn't believe how much friends the boy had as well, worrying the children. He continued looking through the rows of seats to the right side of the room, where Kiba and Shino were sitting. One row to the next he saw they were all there. Except when he looked up to the last row, where Ino was speaking with a nearby classmate. He noticed Hinata hasn't shown up to class yet. Hey Ino? Iruka called out, getting the platinum blonde girl to turn her head at him. Do you know where Hinata is? Oh, I went over to her house early this morning and was told she might be couple minutes late. She explained, then hummed out with her blue eyes looking up in thought. The guards also told me that Hinata will be with a guide, something about possible bullies that might hurt her. Iruka nodded his head in understanding, all the while glad that the young heiress was going to have a guide to the school. He remembered how distraught she was when two of the kids from school were making fun of her eyes with the way they were pale and all, as well beating her up for not speaking to them. That is when Naruto arrived to the scene and protected Hinata from the two bullies. Only that Naruto, having no experiences in self-defense, couldn't really do much, that and it was 2 against 1. Thankfully Naruto bought enough time for him and Hisashi, Hinata's uncle, to arrive at the scene to help her and save the boy. He had them expelled from school for what they did. Of course he didn't bother telling their parents, considering they were part of the anti-Naruto bandwagon and wanting to kill the boy. So in a way they sort of won the battle during that time. His ears then heard what sounded like clicking of the door handle, as he moved his directions towards it and seeing purple hair from the glass window. He figured that Hinata had arrived and wanted to greet her with a happy smile. "Welcome Hinata, glad that you arrived safe, what the?" He widened his eyes as well the others. "Morning, Iruka-sensei, I'm not late am I?" Hinata asked between some flinching movements. She was covered in what looked like bruises as they were covered up in some bandages, as well what appears to be slight dirt on her face. "Hinata, what happened?" Iruka asked while gesturing to her face as the girl blinked her pale eyes, then bashfully started rubbing her head. "Oh I asked father if we could do some early morning training before I left for school. So we did, and accidentally with all out with each other, that I've forgotten about him being more experienced than I am. Who am I kidding, I easily got knocked out in 10 seconds from father's strikes. If I want to make things better for me, I have to make sure that I can get through this. You wanted this Hinata and you will learn to adapt to it and become strong from it. I won't stop until Naruto and I meet again," she explained to Iruka, as well thought quietly to herself, as well seeing that Iruka nodded his head slowly to her response. "Oh, okay, as long it's nothing too serious and it's training. But please try and not overdo it, okay Hinata?" he reminded her as the girl bowed and walked limp towards her seat as she went up the rows of desks. Without even knowing what was going to hit her, one of the students grinned and stuck her foot out, causing Hinata to trip and land face first into the floor, making some of the students too start laughing at Hinata's distress. "That's enough, you all be quiet and apologize," Iruka shouted towards the classmates, while those who were laughing at the poor girl, while Shikamaru and them were checking to see if the heiress was doing fine, as Hinata slowly got up and rubbed her face. She then glared towards the girl who stuck her leg out. "What are you looking at, bruised eyes?" This earned some more snickering as Hinata balled up her hand, trying hard not to get upset from the comment, and kept moving forward. "Hey, you okay?" Sakura asked, as Hinata looked over towards the pink-haired girl who was blinking her emerald eyes towards her, wearing that pink bow on top of her head. Wondering if Hinata was doing okay, all the while wincing at how erect she looked. "Don't worry Sakura-san, if my father fighting skills left me like this. A simple trip is nothing compared to my training," she reassured the girl, and actually was right. That fall did hurt, but not as much it would have done. Then again, it could be the fact that her cheeks were probably still numb from the blows her father delivered. "Alright class, I have some news that is needed to be brought up. It is about Naruto Uzumaki," he said with a very downcasted look on his face, though Mizuki was smiling brightly at the thought the demon was finally dead, or at least out sick in his apartment on his deathbed. "Well, don't leave us hanging sensei, what happened to Naruto?" Ino asked with blinking eyes, as Kiba snorted a bit as he jokingly replied for him. "He probably playing hooky and gotten himself in loads of trouble from the Hokage," he jokingly said, then suddenly let out a painful out when Ino bopped him on the head from behind him. "I wish that was true Kiba," he said, even though he knew where Naruto was. "He is putting up a very good and believable act that what happened to Naruto was devastating." Seeing Kiba and Ino blinking their eyes at their sensei, as well seeing slight tears falling from his face, had their attention. "Sensei, you don't mean?" Kiba asked slowly, as well getting the others to quickly give their fullest attention to him, all the while widening their eyes and gasping. Sakura brought her hands up to her mouth, as she was having trouble controlling her breathing. Sasuke was leaning forward on his desk, trying to gulp down his fears as well control this feeling of sadness. "Yeah, as of yesterday night, Naruto was found in an alley murdered with his face messed up from his attackers, that you couldn't tell that it was him. Skin all burned to the point that he was completely charcoal," he explained to the children as most of them were breaking down, hyperventilating, as well covering their ears and closing their eyes. Mizuki, even though wanted the demon dead and killed, was feeling sick to his stomach. He was more of the killing them on the spot quickly, not agonizingly slow and painful death. Maybe a kunai bomb to blow his body into million pieces, yeah, but nothing like what Iruka was describing. Sensei, please you have to tell us. If he is going to have a funeral at least? Sasuke asked in a standing position, slamming his hands onto the desk trying to calm down his emotions. He and Naruto sure don't get along all that well. But because how often the boy challenges him to almost anything, kunai throwing, taijutsu and even some stupid games, the blonde boy will make up. Though they don't show it publicly, they share a good friendship-like bond with each other. That and his Ka-san is happy that Sasuke was making friends with the boy, all the while telling him that if he makes friends, then they will go the great distances to achieve their dreams, as well always giving each other the helping hand. It can't be true, it just can't be. He wouldn't believe that Naruto was dead, he had a dream of becoming the Hokage. He wouldn't throw that away even in a million years. Wait, how is Hinata taking, huh? He quickly turned his head up towards the heiress, knowing how much of a crush she had with the knucklehead, only to see that she was shaking her head with a small smile. Not that of glad he was gone, but that of knowing somebody was making a good act. He was taught by his father that in order to understand how the Sharingan works, he must be able to read people's body language without it. Well, since he hasn't awakened it yet, he had a lot of practices of reading body languages, and Hinata was applauding Iruka's fake speech and announcement of Naruto's death. So making sure he wasn't mistaken, he turned over towards Iruka, who was answering some of their questions, all the while answering Sasuke's saying that there will be a private funeral for the boy. He is lying, so Naruto isn't dead. Oh, thank Kami, what a relief. I don't know what would happen if somebody I know dies. Said to himself, all the while leaning down on his chair playing his part of pretending to be upset. For a minute he was getting a bit worried there that it was actually true. Alright, enough about that and let's get to a change of subject and get class started, shall we? Iruka announced, getting everyone to nod their heads and move on the school day, knowing it will be really quiet without Naruto around. Mizuki on the other hand was panicking a bit. Now how will he be able to get the Forbidden Scroll? Naruto was his key ticket into getting it, considering the boy spends a lot of time in the Hokage towers. Well, there is always a substatue to take his place, but who he will use is the question. Another C+? Hinata whined out to nobody as they were now outside for the throwing practices and taijutsu practice. She rolled up the test papers and slipped it inside her backpack. She knows that book smarts isn't really good out in the battlefield. Although having good enough intellect and battle strategies for the fields will be good. Though after thinking about it, she is more of a person who adapts instantly on the battlefield, but she also remembers that some of the Hyugas in the compound were also intelligent in battle, that they usually have an advantage. Well, you can't win them all, Hinata. Besides, C+ or B average person is still great. She reassured herself with a smile, all the while blinking her eyes. Didn't she sometimes get somewhat down whenever she gets a C+ grade? Not getting too deep into it, she heard her name being called out from Iruka, saying it is her turn. Yes, Iruka-sensei. She replied to him and walked by the girl who tripped her earlier, as well grunting in pain when she rammed herself into Hinata, causing the girl to rub her sore shoulder as well, glaring at her, with the way she just humph. Watch where you're going, bruised eyes. She retorted and walked away from the line, getting Ino and Sakura to shake their heads and wish Hinata good luck. She won't get upset about it. That girl is just a bully, Hinata thought, and approached Iruka-sensei, who was smiling to Hinata. Alright Hinata, you know what to do, right? He asked. He doesn't know what is going through Hinata today, but he is actually proud the way the girl was handling herself today. She didn't lose her confidence or getting hurt from these insults or that trip from earlier. Of course. She beamed happily and carefully looked at the target pole they needed to throw their shurikens. Of course, with her one bruised eye it was a bit hard to judge, as well, trying hard not to wince that eye when concentrating. With a shout she threw her shuriken towards the tree post. As they were about, 4 thud noises made while the others hit the fence in the far back. Wow, what did the fence ever do to you? Shouted a couple of kids while laughing at the way she missed. Though Iruka was going to scold the kids for saying that, he turned his attention towards Hinata, ready to explain to her that it was okay. Only to stop and saw the girl wasn't upset, but actually sighing out a calming breath. That what happens if you don't let your eye recover. She joked out. She joked about her eyes. Yes, you're right, Hinata. But something tells me you still want that score? He asked with a proud smile. Seeing the girl just nodded her head and walked out of the line with Ino and Sakura saying good job at her. That is right, Hinata. Accepting your mistake is also part of building your confidence. If you know you did wrong, then don't dwell on it. Just move beyond it, she thought out as well, sitting down at the far back end where the fences were, sighing and resting her chin on her knees. 35% was her score during the shuriken toss, as she did manage to land at least 4 shurikens into the tree post, despite her one eye being bruised. That is still good with her kind of injury, as well, being able to throw them without it bothering her. She now understands this feeling, this excitement running through her body. Just the knowing and feeling of being able to accomplishing something despite whatever your faults are. It felt amazing, and wondered if this is what Naruto felt every time he will try again and try even harder to improve himself from his failures. If this is what it means to be confident about yourself, then by all means she will absorb it like a sponge. Okay, will Hinata, Hyuga and Tenten step up? Announced Haruka. All that happy feeling instantly disappeared. She was going to be up against a person who is 1 year older than her. Forget what she said earlier, she rather feel downcasted and less confident in herself again. She then mentally slapped herself and steeled her glare. No, Hinata, don't start doubting yourself again. Just like your other attempts, accept your defeat with pride. You have to learn and understand that there will always be those who are more experienced than you are. You just have to learn from it and improve your skills. With that in mind as well, some of her friends, telling her that she shouldn't fight with the condition she was in. Only to be shocked when Hinata politely moved Ino to the side as the platinum blonde hair girl looked at her back and then towards Sakura. Hey, when did she started being serious? I don't know, Ino, I've never seen Hinata like this before, you think? She pointed a finger at her with wide eyes, wondering if this has something to do with Naruto death being announced to the classroom. You know, Sakura, you might be onto something. Maybe she is going to respect never give up attitude and confidence. She announced while the two nodded their heads with that judgment and looked towards the small arena in front of them, where Hinata was staring at Tenten, who had a small bandage across her nose, smiling brightly towards her opponent. Now this is cool, I always wanted to have this fight with Ya. Hey, what happened to your face? If I know any better, I think you were copying me, cool. She smiled at the end, getting Hinata giggling. Sorry Tenten-san, just early morning practice. She explained, getting the girl let out in. And both girls got into their taijutsu stance. Haruka looked at the two battlers to see if they were ready or not and got the confirmation from the two. Okay, this is taijutsu only, fight, girls ready, begin. Thwack, thud. It was now night in the Leaf Village as Hinata, after being defeated by Tenten at the academy, as well earning a few more bruises to her body. The girl skipped out on dinner and head straight towards her bedroom with the door closing hard. She knows she shouldn't be upset or getting mad, but the day she had was just too much for the girl. It wasn't bad with her father, considering she lose to him all the time, so it was no problem. But when she arrived the academy with those bruises and such, she was suddenly the center of attention. From everyone either making fun of the way she was injured, walking with a limp all the while wincing the bruised eye of hers, then getting calling names like bruised eyes or dirt face. She is really surprised how everyone was out to get her today. Sure, Sakura and Ino as well, her other friends, were there, helping and making sure she was doing okay is good and all. But it doesn't help that it affects you emotionally then physically. Then there were scores. Out of the entire day she had a score of 55% to 65% rating for the day, making her score rankings underneath Kiba. She didn't even think it was possible to be near his score levels, while the worst being Shikamaru's and Choji. Then there is her fight with Tenten. Honestly, she would say it did okay. But within 30 seconds, she was down and out from when Tenten grabbed a hold of her right arm, twirling her body to pull Hinata closer to her and then shoulder throw her out of the ring, promptly knocking the heiress out. It was rough and hard day for her. She wasn't sure if she will be able to keep going like this. Her doubts were seeping through her body as she is thinking that maybe she wouldn't be able to keep her promise for Naruto? You think that maybe the reason Hinata is acting like this is because? Sakura, you might be onto something? Maybe she is going to respect Naruto's never give up attitude and confidence. Hinata quickly sat herself up on the bed and leered at the wall. Sakura and Ino was right. If she wanted to respect and honor Naruto's confidence and never give up attitude as her own, then she won't let her doubts distract her. Like she said at the academy, she will learn to adapt and learn from his mistakes. That is it, Hinata, like Sakura and Ino said. If you are going to respect Naruto's confidence and never giving up attitude and promise, then that is what you're going to do. Just like him, learn from your mistakes, adapt from them and keep on improving your skills. Nobody becomes a great ninja out of nowhere. They become great from the ground and up. She announced to nobody, all the while looking out the window, seeing the bright stars shining through the night. It is only the first day, Hinata. Keep working and you will do it. Watch Naruto-kun. She then smiled and stretched her arm out with her balling up her hand. When you return to the Leaf Village someday, you will be proud of me when we meet again. Naruto, who is resting inside a tent that his mom and he made for the night, is well using a flashlight to read some of the school papers about chakra control. He moved his head up and towards the night sky, as if sensing somebody telling him that they won't give up. He had a feeling that it was Hinata who was telling him that, as he smiled all the while lifting his own arm up in that fist pump formation. That's right, I too won't give up as well. For they made a promise. The two will continue to improve their skills as they can't wait for the day when they reunite. They can show each other and tell each other how much they have improved over through their training, although dark forces are in the works. An eerie darkness looms over Kirigakure village that awaits for son and mother to arrive, as an old foe is waiting for their arrival. It was midday. The Uzumaki family made a lot of great progress ever since leaving the Leaf Village last night. They were at one of the checkpoints through the Fire Nation borders, that will be leading them to Kirigakure territory. Even though they are traveling as civilians as well in branded ninjas, they would have to be careful of what they will do as well how they behave in other nations. This especially worried Kushina, considering all her life living in the Leaf Village. As well how the villagers were raised and the lies of knowing they are safe behind those walls, will have them a bit too lax and blinded by what is truly out there over those large walls and such. Going through the sandy dirt road and sticking very close to a riverside. Kushina would once in a while explain to Naruto that if they were to do this, they can easily hide their scents from anyone who is tracking them, or might be following behind them. She turned her head towards her son and smiled brightly, watching the blonde kid out of boredom, hopping and jumping carefully between each rock with his jumps. Naruto, what are you doing, you silly boy? She asked with a happy tone, admiring how despite them leaving the village, the boy hasn't at least whined, mope or complain about leaving his old home as well his friends. The last part though she knew wasn't true, considering Hinata last night showed great concern for the boy's safety, indicating that there were people who are caring for the boy. Oh, nothing really, just bored is all, that and trying to concentrate chakra. He said as he made another leapt into the air and landed on a very jagged rock, that he promptly had his foot slip right from underneath him and falling straight down onto his back with a thud as well cackling of the rocks underneath him, causing Kushina to wince a bit with her shoulders up, all the while slowly opening her right eye up halfway, then let out a calming sigh seeing the boy was on his back with his legs up against shoulders. Eyes swirling, indicating he took a very big hit to the back of his head. He then quickly recovered and sat up with his hands behind his back. Naruto, I think you skipped over a few steps about chakra control. She giggled out to him, as well watching how he laughed with a blush on his face. Not one to like studying, I presume? She giggled at the way the boy bashfully rubbed the back of his head and nodded to her question. She knelt down to his level, keeping her smile on her face. Yeah, I too didn't like to study a lot when I was a child, she explained, as well then helped Naruto up onto his feet, all the while dusting his shoulders off with careful strokes. Hey Ka-san, I know you were in a coma for 7 years. But I am curious about something? Naruto questioned, watching his mother pull back a bit with blinking eyes, staring down at her blonde hair boy. Seeing what appears to be confusion as well curiosity. Did you ever hear a person named Makoto Uchiha? He asked, then brightened up at the way his mother gasped, all the while giving her fox-like smile to the boy, as well nodding her head to him, ruffling up his hair causing him to laugh. You managed to meet up with Miko-chan. That is great. Naruto, cause her and Hikari, Hinata's mother, were the only two who knew about you being born. Well, not you the way you are. But like you were coming to be born and that what I mean, oh Databane. She growled out at the end, getting all tongue twisted of explaining Naruto that the two mothers knew that she was going to have a baby child. Seeing the distress she was in as well, rubbing her hands through her hair, messing them up a bit, had Naruto chuckled with both hands reaching behind the back of his head. I get it, Ka-san, you told them that you were going to have a baby, he said, easing up the tension for the woman who bashfully rubbed the side of her arm. As for meeting Makoto-san, Yeah, I have met her and run into her a couple of times. She's pretty nice for being Sasuke's mother, that is. He announced with a slight pout at the end of his sentence, causing Kushina to lightly shake her head left and right with her eyes rolling a bit. She had a feeling that him and Sasuke probably wouldn't get along, though that could be her not being there to help Naruto and the Uchiha-san become friends with each other with the help of Makoto. Oh boy, please tell me you two don't get into too many fights? Kushina asked with her left arm resting against the side of her cheek. Well, Naruto started while shrugging his shoulders a bit, then smiled up to her. Not really, only around the school, but other than that, we are pretty good friends when we feel up to it. He mentioned while crossing his arms with that smile of his. Ah, I see, so it's more of a mutual friendship with the two of you. She beamed, getting the answer she needed, though could be better, but guess mutual friendship will be good for now. Then that brought up about Naruto's life. Naruto helped me set up camp so we can get some food cooking, all the while using this chance to learn more about each other. She beamed as well. Naruto too, he would definitely love that, although seeing how she behaved with the Leaf villagers treating him like dirt, he will have to make sure that his mother doesn't decide to turn back and fully get her revenge on them. After getting everything all set up and preparing food, the two Uzumakis were quietly sitting on some logs, listening to wildlife around them, the bristle of the branches weaving to and fro from the gentle breeze, the sea salt-like air hitting into their noses, indicating that and telling them they are approaching their destination soon. All they need to do is rent a boat that will allow them across the sea, and they will be out of the Fire Nation borders for good. Stirring up the food a bit in the pot, as well watching Naruto making rice donuts and sandwiches had the mother a bit sad, mixed in with proudness. Sad because she wasn't there to help and teach Naruto how to live on his own, as well the skills needed to survive. Proud that the boy has learned survival skills when living by himself, all the while from the looks of it teaching himself how to cook, make and prepare food. Naruto, who taught you to cook? She asked him, watching the way the boy froze a bit. She could tell this will be very hard for him to explain. It's alright, you can tell me, dear. She gave him a reassuring smile as he let out a calming breath, continuing rolling up the rice into a ball-shaped form. No one really, mom, I basically taught myself. The old man just gave me quick demonstration of how to use the apartment appliances. He then almost dropped his food when he felt a spike of kill intent coming from his mother. He gulped as well, turning his head slowly towards her, hearing the bones in his shoulders cracking like a crank. Then turned slightly purple in fear at the way his mother was balling his fist, as well sneering. That ass, he had you living in an apartment building?" She yelled, having the boy wince a bit from the shout, though quickly started blinking his eyes, wondering what she mean. He had him living in an apartment. Does that mean he was supposed to live in their real home? Okay, before I answer to that, Aha. He squeaked his voice out, all the while clearing his throat. He swung his legs over to the left, so this way he will be facing his mother, as he placed his small hands onto his green pants and straightened out his white t-shirt with a swirl in the middle of it. Was I by any chance, when I got older and learned to take care of myself? He gave a few minutes, paused with his sentence, so he can prepare himself with Kushina's response. Supposedly be living in you and Oto-san house by any chance? Feeling the kill intent rising even more from his mother, gave her response by looking left and right with heavy breathing. She then started punching repeatedly into the rocky ground next to her, shouting out so many different profanities that were not meant to be heard for a child of Naruto's age, as he was slowly crawling back away from his mother, seeing that she is creating a small crater in the ground. That fucking old sticking, lousy excuse of a third Hokage, grandfather-like figure. How that bastard thought it will be good to. At this point Naruto just tuned out his mother's anger rant as she continued cussing the living daylights at the old man. Old man, be glad we aren't at the village right now, or you will be so meeting your early grave right about now. Naruto thought to himself, as well, seeing that his mother has finally calmed down from her punching a hole through the ground, which is about 3 inches deep into it. He handed Kushina a water bottle as she swiped it from his hand and started gulping down the water that was inside of it, tilting her head ever so back with each sip she made, and then let out a refreshing gasp of air. Phew, thanks Naruto, really needed that. No problem, Ka-san. So, I take it I hit the nail on the head, huh? He asked while placing down the rice balls, seeing Kushina breathing out a huge sigh, and started pouring the stew into a couple of bowls. Yeah, Minato-kun, and I specifically told the third That and if anything were to happen to us, wrote and left 2 separate notes in his offices, explaining what we wanted him to do for when you could take care of yourself. She let out a breath and handed one of the bowls to Naruto, who eagerly started scarfing the food down, making Kushina grin brightly. Right, this is your first ever meal from your mother, isn't it? She exclaimed, all the while laughing at the way Naruto's face went from scarfing the food to a very happy boy. This is the best food I ever ate. He yelled out the last part with his fist in the air and continued eating the food, while Kushina just shook her head left and right as she too dug into her stew. Enjoying the 2 of their company, despite not in a house or building, made it all the better. Well, don't be modest in asking for more, Naruto. Though we will have to be careful with what rations we have, she explained after slurping up some of the stew, looking over at their traveling bag, seeing that they were almost empty on the food department. Nay, as you was saying, Ka-san? About what you and Oto-san wrote in that letter of yours? He asked her as she nodded and continued on explaining what the 2 of them wrote, and that was if and when Naruto becomes a certain age, where he is learning and being able to take care of himself with regular house chores and the likes, that they wanted Sarutobi to move the boy into their estate and property, so this way that he will feel right at home, with their pictures all over the ways and the likes. All the while toys and the likes that Kushina went shopping for with Makoto and Hikari, trying to guide Kushina and teach her how to be a mother of a child. Even though Kushina was a nervous wreck, saying things like nervous she was or what if she treats Naruto the wrong way. All the response she got from the 2 mothers was laughter as well, saying that you're already acting like a true mother right now. Naruto, listening to the tale of how the 3 mothers spend time with each other shopping and the likes for their children, had the bow smiling as well, rocking his body back and forth with his hands holding onto his feet when doing so. He was learning more and more about his mother history, that it is exciting to hear how much he could relate to her as well, how their personality were almost identical. To be blunt, there was a lot we asked for Sarutobi, good for nothing fuck face, she growled at the end, earning a sweat drop from her son, who lightly scratched his whisker marks. Did he help you with anything at all? She asked with a questioning gaze, as the smile and nodded his head. I will say lots, but that would be you to judge, right? He asked with a playful smirk, surprising his mom with that remark as she stuck her tongue out to him, earning him to chuckle all the while crossing his arms into a thinking pose. Let's see, he did help me to understand most of the academy papers and the likes, teaching me math, reading and other things. Oh, and writing as well, teaching me about ninjas, Hokage and chakra, ninjutsu. He told her, all the while telling her about 1 week of school year, when Iruka-sensei became his teacher. Had the mother in fits of laughter at the way the man tried to understand or teach Naruto's behavior in school, even was told how to Naruto's eyes. It looked like Iruka was trying everything to make Naruto to disappear, only to look back at the boy with slight concern. I have to say, the way Iruka behaved during that time had me wondering when he was going to ignore me all of the school year. He exclaimed at the end while watching the way his mom shook her head, rubbing his head a bit. But he didn't, not anymore. He finally decided that you are you. Not the demon or the reincarnation of the 9-tailed fox. He finally let go of what the others told him and saw there was a student who needed his help as well, a father-like figure. She said while placing her hands onto her sides. She would have to send a letter to Sarutobi, giving her thanks to Iruka for at least taking care of her son. Despite that, he couldn't help with the mob attacks. After all, he must be busy with grading papers and such. Yup, besides him there is also Tuichi and Ayame-ne-chan. He then blushed while getting embarrassed when his mother cooed out with a happy tone. "Ah, Tilda, I didn't know you call her older sister. That is so cute of you," she giggled out while pinching his cheeks. Always wanted to do that with her son when he was born. All the while getting her hands whacked away with his hands, with Naruto becoming embarrassed. "Stop it, Mom, that hurts," he bellowed out, all the while rubbing his sore cheek, but still chuckled at the way his mom was giggling with that bright smile of hers. "Which reminds me, Mom." This earned the mother to blink her eyes at her son, seeing and watching him thinking very hard with his thoughts. That it reminded her so much like herself whenever she wanted to ask something important to Minato, with the man saying how cute she looks whenever doing that. And now it rubbed off onto Naruto. Great, that he means he also had some of my bad habits too. She then just shrugged those thoughts away, considering you can't control all the things your child picks up on from their parents. If you and I are part of the clan, then where are the others? We couldn't be the last of our kind, right? Now that was a good question the boy brought up to Kushina. She too found it weird at the time that the only last surviving members of the Uzumaki clan were Mito Uzumaki, who passed the Kyuubi towards her, and Naruto, who too received the nine-tailed fox. All she knows is that she was a refugee from the land of whirlpools when it got destroyed, but there were no actual records of the entire clan perishing? She hummed out and thought as she thought this through. Her nose wrinkled a bit, causing Naruto to chuckle at the way she imitated his own thinking pose, giving him a good idea that she was definitely his mom, no question about it. You might have a good point, Naruto. I too thought before having you. Was the last Uzumaki clan member? Now thinking it over, there were no actual records stating that we all had perished. She then sighed out as the two were finally done with their lunches. If anything, we all could still be in hiding. Then this quickly brought up another question from the boy. If they are in hiding, how can we tell if they're an Uzumaki? Hey, that is kind of easy. Uzumaki are the only people known to have really bright red hair. She explained while lifting up a small strain of her hair. Of course I am not entirely sure if that is true or not, but Mito, the first Hokage's wife, also had red hair. Well, when she was young, that is Aha. She bashfully rubbed the back of her head while letting go of her hair. Either than that, we are also great in kenjutsu, or sword use in better meaning of the word. She stated, getting Naruto smiling, as well, thinking the boy wasn't taught about ninjas who uses swords is called kenjutsu. But what distinct Uzumakis from the rest of the other ninjas is that we are excellent at the art of funjutsu, or sealing techniques. She excitedly said at the end, getting the boy to shine brightly. He wasn't sure what funjutsu is, but if he was thinking right along with some of the scrolls he read in the old man's office. It was a style that requires special ink-like materials to write down in certain made scrolls that allow the ninjas to seal away any weapons, kunais, or jutsu of their choice. Nay, Ka-san. Ka-san, you think you could teach me about funjutsu? Naruto asked while clasping his hands together using the puppy eyes on her. Well, do. She hold out the word while moving her body forward, playfully tapping her forehead with his. Of course I am going to teach you funjutsu. Where do you think your father mastered the technique from? She exclaimed, then toppled backwards onto her back, as Naruto dived into her a massive hug, thanking her quickly and fast that she could barely make out the words from him, being way too excited. But before we do though, Naruto, funjutsu takes a lot of practice as well, patience. Since you need to learn how to write and make formula words. Formula words? Like how some of the scrolls have those weird writings? He asked, which Kushina nodded her head, glad that none of the teachings went unheard of in the academy, either that or Sarutobi himself tried to explain Naruto about them. Yes, that is exactly correct, but I don't want you to start training in that. The response she got was a whine of why not, getting her to smile. Because, and I will be blunt, Naruto, your chakra control really, well, it's mediocre at best, son. She said, watching the way the boy leered at her. Thanks for the harsh criticism, Mom, really helpful. He blanched out, then yelped when she tackled him and started tickling him. The bond they were displaying for mother and son is greatly rising as they are traveling through the outskirts of Kirigakure. Hearing and being told that this journey will not be all for nothing, Kushina explains to Naruto that tomorrow they will start practicing as well, teaching him all of the basics he knows of how to become a ninja. Thus their journey will also become a traveling training journey as well. With tomorrow rising sun breaking through the horizon, the two Uzumaki began with Naruto's training by first teaching the boy all there is to know about chakra and how it is used importantly for ninjas. Of course, Naruto's knowledge and ways of using his chakra in the first place was really poor, considering from what he told her and explained to her, that every time lessons of chakra nature and likes would be brought up in class, had the teachers kicking him out, telling him and explaining that demons don't need to learn about them. This caused Kushina to try everything to hold down her temper. The way her and Minato's son was being mistreated in the village is horrible. She wasn't sure what Minato told Sarutobi in his letter, but she as hell knows that he wanted the village to see the boy as a hero, the child who saved the village from the dangers of the nine-tailed fox, although now she thought about it, he probably did told Sarutobi, and that those who survived the war couldn't let go of the past and put all their hate and anger into the child as well, believe he was the reincarnation of said fox. If what she was accused of in the council that day, then that would be a safe bet. So, chakra is not just about physical strength? Naruto asked while crossing his arms, seeing that his mother was teaching him the very beginning lessons of how chakra works. Even though he explained to her that Iruka already taught him this lesson, only to be told that those lessons Iruka taught were advanced ones. All the while saying that what he learned from those are essential, but not to somebody who hasn't started from step 1 and worked their way up, getting Naruto a better understanding what the other reason for his mother to hate the villagers. They were stunting his growth and ability to be a better ninja. They were so afraid that if he were to learn how to use chakra, the demon inside of him will tell him all of the dangerous jutsu out there and having the boy destroy everything. Well enough musing, he has to pay attention if he wants to become a great ninja. Right, Naruto, it is also part of spiritual energy as well. In a way that gets drawn out from your body, like for example. She beamed while having her hands together, with the fingers pointing up, concentrating her own chakra as it started illuminating around her body, causing Naruto to let out a surprised look as well as smile. Never knowing you could have your chakra surround you in an aura before, he moved his hand forward ever so slightly, wondering if he could feel it. This action caused Kushina to giggle lightly. Go ahead, Naruto, and yes, skilled ninjas, as well, even an untrained one can feel the radiating chakra from said person who is concentrating on it. She explained while feeling her chakra lightly curling around the boy's finger, illuminating a green-like glow, informing her that hers and Naruto's chakra were that of the same as well in tune with each other. Hey, how come it is changing green-like color? Are you using medical jutsu? The response he got from Kushina was a shake of the head. She then cancelled out her concentration and looked down at her son, who was stuck in outstanding belief. Nope, chakra only does that whenever two people who shares the same chakra nature will resonate one another. Your father explained it to me once, after going on a mission with Inoichi and Choza, Ino and Choji's fathers, after stopping a powerful puppet master. She then looked up and thought, trying to figure out who the ninja he met was. Then growled out in frustration as well, causing Naruto to boast in laughter when she said, "Damn it, Minato. Even till then I still can't figure out what you mean by you will meet him one day." By now the person in question will probably be around Kakashi's age, if the description were anything to go by. Anywho, since you are mine and Minato's son, our chakra nature will be resonating with one another automatically. She explained, all the while stopping her concentration on her chakra, causing Naruto to be really surprised as well, glad to know that he was definitely Kushina's and the 4th Hokage's son. Things got started as Kushina continued her lessons with Naruto, telling him and wanting him to learn a very basic chakra exercise, and that is levitating a very small leaf in his hands. The boy asked what this will do for him, at the same time smiling when she responded back with a wink as well, grinning, informing him that doing this practice will help the boy understand to focus on the task he is doing as well, saying that he will have a better understanding where to pinpoint where his chakra will be going. Knowing the boy as well, seeing how he is having a bit trouble keeping the leaf from blowing away from his hands, she figured he would have a huge chakra reserves in his body, from both Kushina and Kyuubi. One being of an Uzumaki blood would need that big amount of chakra in order to perform seals, while the second will be the 9-tailed fox that is sealed inside of him, giving him those extra reserves from demonic chakra as well, the ability to regenerate from bad injuries. The duo has been at this exercise for about 3 days, as they have finally arrived on the borders that were Land of Waters. On the 3rd day before arriving, Kushina had Naruto start practicing on his taijutsu on the account, seeing how terrible his stances were and the way she could read him like an open book. Had the mother really mad at yet again, with the poor treatment and lack of teaching the boy had. She is glad though, from what Naruto was saying to her, that Sasuke, whenever they were hanging out with each other, with no eyes focusing on them, had asked Naruto if he wanted some help on his taijutsu. Of course he couldn't teach him the Uchiha style, since that will be betraying the trust of his family and clan secrets. Though became happy after a few minutes of Naruto thinking it through as well, untrusting to Sasuke, that he agreed and had the two boys practicing. Of course training on a boat was difficult on its own, since the rocking of the waves made it difficult for young Naruto to even find his balance, as he was trying everything to land a hit on his mother, who went ahead and told him that she will be his target practice for his taijutsu training. All the while reading a book about different styles and form of fighting techniques for Naruto to learn, at the same time using the said book in the form to defending herself from whenever he would try and deliver a punch or kick to her. There were a few times where Naruto would manage to land a hit, only to get counter by Kushina immediately twirling around his back and kicking him in the back of his head, sending the boy flying forward a bit as well, hitting the boat's surface with a groan. Now that they were on land as well, few sore muscles here and there, the two reached to one of the towns that were like a farm village. A nice quiet and peaceful looking place too, as Naruto couldn't help but express his emotions from the falling snowflakes that were coming from the clouds. Wow, we never get any snow in the Leaf Village all that much. Look Ka-san, I can even catch them in my tongue. He beamed at the end, all the while getting his mother to giggle at her son's antics. True to his words, he stuck his tongue out from his mouth, catching the multiple snowflakes that were landing on it, to quickly melt away in water with the boy swallowing it up. Brr, tastes cold. Hey, come on Naruto, let's try and find a hotel room or something. Though seeing how little money we have, she pulled out her wallet as well, looking through how much money they have left through their entire adventure in the Land of Fire, causing the both of them to grimace at how they only have about 1k Ryo left in their possession. She couldn't get any access to Minato's money on the account. She doesn't remember his code or have any proof that she knows the man. Sure, the wedding ring might be helpful, but their wedding was very secretively, and that the only people who knows about it were Kakashi, third Hokage, and his wife as well, probably the elders. Those are the only people who could vouch. Even still, she needed possession from Minato to still confirm it. Don't worry Ka-san, I'm sure tomorrow we could ask one of the famers if they need help or not, Naruto said excitedly while bringing both arms behind his head, causing the mother to let out a few chuckles as well. The good idea from the boy. You're right, but for now let's get a room and something to eat, we are exhausted from the trip. She reminded him as Naruto nodded in agreement, all the while hearing both their stomachs growling in agreement, causing the two to blush and start seeking for a hotel room. Without them knowing, a very young curious eyes belonging to a girl, who is around Naruto's age, only 2 years older, were watching the two strangers from behind a tree. She wore a light blue sweater like kimono on top, a heavy long sleeve brown shirt as well as tan like heavy pants going down to her ankles. Mesmerized by how colorful the two strangers' hair was as well how beautiful they looked on them. But her real main focus was the happy looking boy, who looked like he didn't really much care about what is around him. Lifting a thumb near her lip, she couldn't help but blush with a smile, all the while following them towards the city. After all, they need a proper greeting to the Land of Water, right? That, and maybe she will be able to make friends with this boy, unlike most of the other children here. They were just way older than she was by 10 years, making her the youngest in this farm village. Upon entering the village-like area, Naruto and Kushina were a bit passive upon entry, getting this strange feeling of doubt, fear and worry in the air that it is so thick, you could easily cut a kunai in the middle of it. Something is definitely making the villagers uneasy here. What makes it validated is that the attention isn't on me or Naruto, but something else. Kushina thought, all the while blinking her eyes down to Naruto, feeling his hands softly gripping onto her sleeves as well, looking up to her with a bit worried expression, though trying to stay and look strong. Not that I'm scared or anything Ka-san, but you do feel that too, right? Yeah, she said with a slight shake in her voice, checking around with her eyes, seeing some of the villagers were working, but will sometimes look out towards where the mountain-like road was in the south, as if expecting something or somebody to be coming through them any moment. Naruto, I have a feeling, and it's just a hunch, she started while lightly pulling him into an alleyway, making the young girl from the distance to blink her eyes and tilt her head to the left. Curious of why the red-hair woman pulled her son over there? Oh well, she thought with a happy smile, and happily continued on forward to their hiding spot. Probably the mother wanted to tell the boy a secret. She knows she shouldn't listen in, but her curiosity is getting the better of her. That, and they did say they needed a place to sleep, in which they are in luck. Her mother works at an inn in the village. She will gladly guide them towards the hotel as well, getting to know more about the boy. She now slowly started walking towards the alleyway, wanting to know and hear what this secret will be about. She lightly placed her body against the building wall and peeked around the corner in order to hear and see them better. But something might happen, and I mean something terrible, which is why the villagers are on edge. Naruto gritted his teeth a bit. He had a feeling that was the case. Nobody, not even an entire town, will be on edge if they knew something horrible was going to happen. Though he quickly hummed out with closed eyes and crossed arms, causing the girl who is watching them to eye smile and blushed at the way he is being cute. All the while keeping in mind of this danger they were talking about. Ka-san, by any chance, Are they directing their woes on the village itself? This had Kushina paused. Her son might be onto something. It is true that having everyone behaving like this as well, starring at the top of a mountainside, all seemed surreal. She should really figure out the history on Kirigakure as well, figure out if they are still at war or not. Seeing how worried they are about the village safety eased the little girl's mind. From the beginning she knew they weren't trouble at all, and in fact good people. Sorry for listening in. She peeked out, all the while having Naruto and Kushina both looking at her. Surprised they weren't paying attention to their surroundings to notice she was there. All the while watched how the bright smile of hers indicated that she comes in peace. But I think I know somebody, in the hotel that my mom works in. Could help you out with whatever questions you have about our village, or why they are worried. She lightly lowered her voice at the end. She too had been noticing the woes of the people living here, that it was starting to affect her and the other people who were living, as well, making a few on edge of what might be coming. Well, thank you for the offer, but it is quite rude not introducing yourself, a playful Kushina said with a bright smile, causing the young girl to bop her head lightly, getting a few chuckles from Naruto. Right, where are my manners? My name is Yuki Haku, she announced, holding her hand out towards the two, which Kushina happily accepts her handshake. Name's Uzumaki Kushina and this is my son Naruto. She introduced them to Haku, as she shook hands with the older woman, all the while bashfully shaking hands with Naruto. In turn didn't go unnoticed by Kushina, as the girl's posture quickly changed. Nice to meet you Haku, exclaimed Naruto as he looked at the girl's blushing face as well. He too then blushed when she said, "You look adorable with those whiskers." This promptly had Haku widen her eyes in shock. Those were supposed to stay in her thoughts, not out in the open, all the while watching the way the boy pulled his hand gently away, all the while bashfully rubbed the back of his head. Thanks, I guess they do make me look a little chibi, right?" he asked with embarrassment behind his voice. Kushina was trying everything to not go all kawaii on the two children. Not even 10 minutes in the village and Naruto was already making friends. As well, might be catching some affection to him. Haku nodded weakly, trying hard to hide her pink face, though failing at it considering the gray snowy clouds were making them really noticeable. She then looked up at Naruto's mother after she cleared her throat a bit. "You are going to introduce me to a person?" she playfully said with a teasing smirk. This had Haku blinked her eyes a bit as she stared at the two. Oh right, my hotel, I mean my mother hotels, where both of you can stay." She tried to explain only to constantly switch her sentence around, catching herself from not saying Naruto's name but to the both. Earning even more laughter from Kushina. "Dear Kami, was I like that with Minato-kun after he saved my life? Seems like our son has caught your attraction, Minato," she thought to herself, all the while shaking her head, as the two Uzumaki followed the girl. Well, more of Kushina following her as Haku grabbed Naruto's hand and started pulling him with her. Either she is infatuated with Naruto, or just really happy to make some friends. I will go with both. With those final thoughts of how Haku is behaving, the trio all stepped inside a tall wooden-like building with a sin hanging out in the front. That said hotel on the sign that is swaying back and forth with the gentle winds, with the snow suddenly falling off of it when the door got shut. "Ka-san, I brought some guests," announced Haku, who was still holding onto Naruto's wrists, having the boy become really bashful at this treatment. Nobody really had so much interest into him in the Leaf Village, and yet this girl who they only met like 20 seconds ago is keeping a very firm and tight grip onto him, afraid that if she let go, he would run away. Why would she even think I will run away? Hearing her daughter calling her, the mother turned around behind the counter, placing some of the keys through some slots on a drawer. No doubt about it, her daughter had definitely found customers. Especially they were travelers from outside the land of waters, so she approached the counter and smiled softly at them. All the while noticing the way Haku kept a firm grip on the blonde boy's wrists, might also give her the hint. She gave them really no choice in the matter of coming here. "Welcome to the Usari Yuki Hotel, how I can help you folks?" she asked, as she watched a woman with long red hair walking up to her. Placing her arms onto the counter, fighting back the growling of her stomach, in which had Haku giggling with the way both Uzumaki's stomach growled at the same time. "Would you happen to have a menu for food first?" Kushina bashfully said, making the woman with a tan long-sleeve shirt, with a decorative poncho over top of it with a long blue skirt reaching down to her ankles, laughed gently. Of course the menu's right next to the cash register. Haku dear? She leaned to the right, seeing her daughter being fascinated by the blonde boy's cheeks, as she hasn't learned about personal space from the look of things, gently stroking her thumbs over them, causing Naruto to become very uneasy as well, blushing from the way she is doing that to him. Haku, leave the boy alone, will ya? Her mother yelled playfully, seeing that she scared the young girl, all the while pulling away from Naruto in her upright standing position with a full-on blush. Now that I got your attention, how about you show Naruto around the hotel as well, prepare some food for our guests. While me and his mother going to speak with each other, she explained, getting Kushina to shift her eyes towards the mother. Having a good feeling she knew what it is that she really wanted asked. She then almost let out an awe when Haku agreed too quickly and had Naruto by her hands once again, all the while rushing out to give the boy a quick tour, getting Hawk's mother to lower one brow down as well, tilting her head. I think this is her first time seeing somebody of her age group in the village? Kushina mentioned while leaning on the counter, watching the two children heading off towards the back area of the building. This had Yusari shaking her head, realizing that might be it as well, probably never seeing a boy like him before. I'm sure that might be it, as well, probably wanting to get to know him better as well, she said playfully, getting Kushina to smile brightly, as well remembering telling Naruto about being able to make friends here, and already he is. Though truthfully she wished it was somebody who is the same age as him, not one who is 2 years older, considering that someone being 2 years older is a girl. Why does she have a gutsy feeling that Naruto will have his dad curse of attracting ladies to him? Oh boy, she remembered that perverted sage Jiraiya, always using Minato young boy charms to attract the older population of girls around him, saying how he is Minato's grandson just so he can get research for his Icha series. Alright, I know you're a ninja from another land, so I will get to the chase, Yusari explained while using a small sensory jutsu to make sure that Naruto and Haku were nowhere near them. Seeing that the two were already in the kitchen, she decided to begin as well, pulling out some rice balls for the two mothers to eat. Right, my son, and I notice there is a lot of tension in the air. I am curious what got in the village in so much fear, she asked, accepting the rice ball even though she should be worried about poison and the likes from Yusari. But seeing how trusting she was with her daughter, with her son, is good enough to trust Yusari. That and the way she is smiling and giving off a glad-like feeling that somebody else has taken notice, was informing Kushina that she isn't the only one who noticed. Sighing and shaking her head, she combed her fingers through her jet black hair. It is because of the recent war that is going on. This almost caused Kushina to choke on her food, all the while whipping her attention at Yusari. Seeing the worried expression on her face as well validated that Naruto and she had arrived at the wrong time. I'm sorry if I sound rude saying you and Naruto can't stay here. She then raised a hand, seeing that Kushina was going to protest. It's not your fight, nor will it be your fight. This is Land of Water's problem and you have to accept our wishes. Kushina can actually, on the account it is true, she is from another elemental nation and she has no business into getting involved with their problems. She smiled. You're right, this isn't my fight, she stated, seeing the mother nodded in agreement, only to widen her eyes when Kushina next said, this is both of our fights. I left my village with my son after witnessing how much hatred and scorn he was receiving with the villagers, teachers and ninja there. That we decided enough was enough and left, to find a better home, a better place to live. She then sighed out a depressing sigh. If I knew about the war that is going on here in Kirigakure, I would have waited until Naruto was trained enough to fight. Yusari blinked her eyes at the story she was telling. The reason for the mother and son to be here is because her son was mistreated and scorned. If I may ask, where exactly did you come from? She pondered as well, became appalled when Kushina told her that her and Naruto came from the village hidden in the leaves. Weren't the village one to promise and accepting of bloodlines? Why give her child a hard time in the first place, considering how peaceful and prosperous that place was? You're thinking why we got treated so badly, right? She asked, seeing Yusari nodding her head a bit, wanting to know exactly why such a happy boy and a happy mother was forced to leave such a village. Kushina was reluctant to actually explain to the woman about what is inside of Naruto. On the account, in any village, Jinchurikis get shunned or get hated because of what is inside of them. No matter where they are or where they go, the treatment will always be the same within each village. But if she doesn't explain to her their situation, that will cause some trust issues. Naruto will probably tell Haku sooner or later, so what else I got to lose? She said to herself, all the while inhaling a lot air and exhaling it back out with closed eyes. She then opened one eye up in worriment when she asked, Do you know about the tailed beasts? This had Yusari blinked her eyes. That was definitely a dumb question to ask her about. Of course she knows about the beasts. Everyone in the ninja world knows about them. That, and she heard rumors of the fourth Mizukage might actually have one sealed inside of him. Kushina saw the woman's eyes bulge wide, surprised at how quick she picked up onto the hint that it left the mother concerned as well, waving her right hand up and down in front of the woman's face, wondering if she froze her in time. Yusari, you okay? Oh, fine, she said quickly while shaking her head left and right all the while laughing. So wait, your son have a tailed beast seal inside of him, right? She asked, getting Kushina really concerned right now as she nodded her head. Which number? She asked once more, showing Kushina how much she is curious now. The 9 tails? She waited for the scream and scorned as well from the mother. Yelling at her as well, kicking them out, for endangering her customers and her daughter. She waited and waited but haven't heard the woman scream yet. She bravely opened both eyes slowly to see what expression she was wearing. Only to see that it was that actual concern for Naruto as well mixed in with relief. Damn, at first I thought it is because you two had a bloodline that they were afraid of. That had you two leaving the village, but he is a Jinchuriki? She wanted to make sure, with a tilt of her head in a, "You're sure" fashion. Seeing the weak nod, the mother Tisk all the while growling out, those bastards, just because he have the demon inside of him, doesn't mean they should attack him or scorn him for that reason alone. She yelled, causing Kushina to widen her eyes as well, hoping that none of the other customers were hearing this. She then jumped a bit when Yusari slammed her fist onto the counter, all the while directing her attention to a woman, wearing blue-like dress that were hanging off from under her shoulder blades. Her dark-toned orange long hair, reaching all the way to her back, as well what appeared to be knee mesh stockings on her legs, as her red lipsticks on her lips curled up into a smile. Can you believe that, May? Yusari announced the woman's name, making Kushina slap her hands up to her own face. Shaking her head left and right, thinking she blew it for both her and Naruto, she heard the footstep of what sounded like high heels, stopping right behind her, all the while resting a reassuring hand on her shoulder. I too am appalled for what the Leaf Village did to her son. They should know that Jinchurikis are the ones who are keeping their people and homes alive right now, she said while getting Kushina to pull her hands down gently with blinking eyes. She then turned towards May with blinking eyes. May winked at Kushina while moving towards the counter next to Yusari, with both of them now wearing proud smiles. You shouldn't be concerned about your son here, miss. Our fourth Mizukage himself has a tailed beast inside of him as well. Now that is a surprise to hear, that the Mizukage having a tailed beast inside of him. Before we continued, I think introductions are in order? May playfully said while moving off from the counter, while Yusari nodded her head all the while what appears to be pulling out some headbands from a drawer. The name is Mai Terumi, the leader of a rebel group that is being gathered around here in the village, and you are? She introduced herself while resting a hand on her chest, then guided the hand around the room, showing Kushina where the other rebels were, who were grinning, smiling as well as rolling their shoulders. Not a single fear were on their faces when they heard about Naruto having the 9-tailed fox sealed inside of him, but what upset her is the fact they ranged from different ages. She turned her attention back towards May after she asked who she was, all the while shaking her hands with the woman. Kushina Uzumaki, and the blonde boy who is with Haku is Naruto Uzumaki. She told them as the two women welcomed them to the land of water, only to glare to the next question in a way to respond to her. What exactly are you? Rebellion up against May, Yusari. The bloodline purge. The two children, who left the adults to themselves, were now walking outside of the hotel and into the streets. The reason for this is because Haku wanted to show Naruto something special, and in order to do that, she has to lead him towards a nearby lake, which Naruto happily accepted after eating a good warm meal. So Naruto, why are you and your mother coming here in Kirigakure? She asked the blonde boy, making sure to stick close with him at all times, as well sharing body heat with one another, considering he wouldn't probably be used to the cold air. You won't freak out if I tell you? She could hear the worriment in his voice, indicating that he had a secret that must be frightening? Well, it couldn't be bad as her having a bloodline? She gave him a reassuring smile while rubbing his back gently, all the while leaning her head forward a bit. Don't worry Naruto-kun. I won't freak out unless you don't freak out from my surprise? She told him, while blushing with the boy. Considering she added the suffix to his name, getting him to smile bashfully as well, sighing out. Well, alright, the reason Ka-san and I are here in Kirigakure is because, well, I wasn't really well liked in my village. He started while looking down at the snow, remembering all those hateful glares, those many random attacks that befall onto the boy. Haku saw how depressed he looked when he started telling her about how he wasn't liked in the village, then hardened her stare with a very mean glare. Hearing how they would attack him, chase him through the village all the while, saying mean things about him. Even going to the point of trying to kill him many times, and he is only 7 years old. What really got her furious is when they started calling him demon brat, monster and a demon spawn. She could actually relate in a way. Ever since the bloodline purge had started, everyone in Kirigakure are all afraid of any ninjas who possesses a bloodline or Kekkei Gankai. While gathering everyone in that village